Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San today. My channel isn't monetized, so if you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Chapters 41 through 60 of the previous episode.
The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town breathed heavily. Despite being old, she forcibly stabilized her emotions and suddenly swallowed the wind wolf heart she held. Instantly, her entire body began to tremble violently. Her aura, which had been around the 7th order, rapidly fell to the 6th order, then further down to the 5th order before gradually settling. She also appeared increasingly aged. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town continuously emitted low roars and cries of grief, but Feng Xiong and Appo's already shriveled corpse showed no sign of life whatsoever. Shan Ling stood nearby, his eyes flickering with light, feeling that he should leave this place as soon as possible. The High Priest of this town and the deceased lord seemed to be much more significant characters than he had thought. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town slowly stood up, her gaze burning into Shan Ling. Then she took a deep breath, and the gaze in her eyes, which had dimmed, deepened for some reason. It seemed as if she wanted to etch the appearance of this 7th order flash leopard into its memory. A whirlwind emanated from the High Priest's hands, lifting the body of Feng Xiong, the deceased lord of Wind Wolf Town. With the corpse in tow, she slowly flew toward Wind Wolf Town. Shan Ling took a couple of steps but ultimately stopped. After a moment of thought, he turned the opposite way and swiftly left. His purpose for coming here had been achieved. He had rescued the surviving flash leopard younglings, the main culprit was dead, and quite a few wind wolves had been killed. The only unclear aspect for Shan Ling was regarding the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town and the deceased Wind Wolf Lord, who definitely had something special about them. He wasn't worried, however. No matter how special these two were, the flash leopards had the high moral ground and the legal justification. With that in mind, he decided to return and report to his clan first. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town, holding the body of the Wind Wolf Lord, slowly flew back to the town, all the way to the altar, where she gently placed Feng Xiong and Appo's body in the center. She started muttering something, and as she chanted, the redness in her eyes grew deeper and more intense. The altar began to tremble slowly, with green light patterns gradually emerging on its surface. Atop the altar, Feng Xiong and Appo's body also emitted an emerald green light intermixed with patches of faint gold. Great Wind Wolf King, your offspring has been slain. With the blood of your descendant as a sacrifice, I beseech you, give justice to us, mother and child. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town let out a piercing roar to the sky, and a bright green light with a blood-red tinge shot up into the sky, instantly turning into a huge green and red light column. The entire Wind Wolf Town trembled violently when this green and red light column appeared. Inside the wooden house, Wang Yanfeng, who had been on high alert after the flash leopard invasion, was shocked to see the light column shooting into the sky. Gazing in the direction of the altar, he was momentarily dazed. Whether it was him, Qiu Jing, the 3 Wang brothers, or Ling Muxue at this moment, they all felt their bloodlines simmering, and even their emotions were affected. What exactly is this? 5 kilometers west of Wind Wolf Town, Tang San landed gracefully on the ground. As he looked around, a figure emerged from behind a large tree, the Tiger Man from the Redemption Society. The Tiger Man gestured to Tang San, who quickly followed. Without saying much, the Tiger Man led Tang San away toward the distance. At that moment, the Tiger Man sensed something, and he abruptly stopped and turned around. Tang San felt the wind wolf imprint within him throbbing. When he turned back, he saw a huge green light column rising into the sky from the direction of Wind Wolf Town, intermingled with strands of blood red as if it was contaminated. Such intense resentment. What is this? The Tiger Man's eyes widened. Let and Appo's go, we should leave quickly. It seems that something unexpected happened in Wind Wolf Town. Saying this, he grabbed Tang San and Appo's arm and quickly darted away. Kali City. The Wind Wolf Ancestral House. In a room adorned with various rare furs, an elderly wind wolf lay reclining in a lounge chair. Suddenly, his body trembled violently, and he sat up straight. This elderly wind wolf stood about 2 meters tall, with a robust and imposing figure in spite of his advanced age. Strikingly, he actually looked almost entirely human, except for his pale green skin and emerald green hair. Each strand of hair emitted a faint green glow, and his deep green eyes were as profound as bottomless pools. A deep roar echoed from his mouth. "Who dares to touch my offspring?" In the next instant, the entire Wind Wolf ancestral house trembled. On the side of Cali City Center Square, the Mei Gongzi milk tea shop, Mei Gongzi, her mother, and a female employee were all busy. They had a clear division of labor. Mei Gongzi and Appo's mother made the milk tea, Mei Gongzi handled the cash, and the female employee served the milk tea to the customers. Every evening was their busiest time. Cali Square also became more lively around this time. Of course, only members of the powerful clans of Cali City would be active in this area. The female employee suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Mei Gongzi didn't and Appo's react much, but her mother, Su Qin, instinctively turned her head to look and was also startled. A sturdy wind wolf who had just bought milk tea suddenly shone with a bright green light. This green light also attracted Mei Gongzi and Appo's attention. Before they could ask what was going on, the wind wolf suddenly turned around and sprinted away, not even bothering to take the milk tea it had already paid for. At Cali Square, the few wind wolves present suddenly illuminated the night like green-lit lamps. All of them, without exception, accelerated and quickly headed in the direction of the Wind Wolf ancestral home. 2 days later, 2 figures, one large and one small, appeared not far from the gates of Cali City. Both walked toward the city gate with their heads lowered. The smaller human quietly lifted his head to look at the tall city tower ahead, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a smile. "Cali City, here I come. Mei Gongzi, I and Appo's am coming." The tiger man stopped and quietly removed his mask, revealing the middle-aged face that Tang San had seen before. From a distance, they could already see the tall walls of Cali City and the towering mountains on either side. When he first came here, Tang San noticed the temperature and energy level difference between inside and outside the city walls. As one of the main cities of the demon race, the prosperity of this city left a deep impression on him. Of course, it was a prosperity that humans could not really partake in. The tiger man handed a token over and said, "Tang San, take this." Tang San took the token and saw it was green, carved from wind spirit stone, and of higher quality than any he had seen. One side was carved with a wolf and Appo's head, while the other had engraved a few words in the characters of the demon language. It likely recorded his name and affiliation. Naturally, it was the Wind Wolf clan, but it was no longer the clan branch living in the small Wind Wolf town. Instead, it was the Wind Wolf ancestral house in Cali City. Without a doubt, this was an official vassal token. With this token, Tang San now had a formal status in the world of the demon race, which protected him from being arbitrarily slain by demons. Remember, from now on, you are a human vassal of the Wind Wolf ancestral house. Your parents also served the Wind Wolf king as vassals in the ancestral house, so you received a vassal and Appo's status at a young age. If you and Appo's question, just say that. This vassal identity token is genuine and can withstand scrutiny. Don and Appo's panic if you encounter any patrols. You Don and Appo's need to go to the Wind Wolf ancestral house. This is just an identity token prepared to match your demonic god transformation, the tiger man explained. "Senior, how should I address you?" Tang San asked. Hearing Tang San address him as senior, the tiger man was visibly startled, evidently unaccustomed to this address. "Senior? I guess you can call me that, yeah. My name is Xianxia Shao, and I am affiliated with the Redemption Society of Cali City," the tiger man said with a smile. "Does this mean I am now a part of the Redemption Society?" Tang San asked. Zhang Tianxiao shook his head and replied, "The organization still needs to conduct a series of assessments on you. Of course, the most important is your training. The organization chose you at such a young age because of your talent. In your upcoming studies and cultivation, you must give it your all. It and Appo's pointless to speak of grand principles now. Don and Appo's, do you want to avenge your mother? For that, you need greater strength. And to protect yourself, you also need strength." Understood, Tang San nodded. Zhang Tianxiao led Tang San into Cali City. The city gate was no different from the last time he was there. They walked along the edge of the road, actively avoiding the demons strolling along. Inside Cali City, the temperature was much warmer than outside, and it felt cozy and comfortable. The city was still bustling with activity, filled with various types of demons as far as the eye could see. Different demon races and oppos. Status could be discerned by the part of the streets that they walked on. Those daring to walk in the center of the roads were usually from stronger demon races. Of course, they also actively made way if they encountered even stronger races. There was a clear hierarchy among the demon races, and it seemed that it was well respected. "Senior, where are we going now?" Tang San asked quietly. Zhang Tianshao glanced at him and said, "To the academy." Tang San was momentarily stunned. This word held significant meaning for him. In his previous life in the Douluo continent, the academy he joined in his youth later became the top academy on the continent due to the excellence of their batch of disciples. He still clearly remembered the slogan of that academy: "Shrek only accepts monsters." After coming to the demon continent, he had never imagined that there would also be academies in this world. Surprised by this, Tang San inquired, "An academy for demons? I thought the demon races all followed a family inheritance." Zhang Tianzio explained, "Back when you lived in that remote town, your understanding of this world was limited. Of course, demon races have their academies and there are clear rankings. But not all demons are eligible to enter these academies. The academies of the demon races are open only to the nobles of various demon clans. It's not only a matter of class either, the cost is also exceptionally high. But the academy I and Oppos am taking you to is not one of the demon academies, it's our own. Redemption Academy." Tang San was startled. Redemption Academy? The Redemption Society has its own academy? This was truly beyond his expectations. He had seen clearly over the years what status humans held. Could Redemption Society, resistance organizations, and even human vassals affiliated with demon clans have their own academy? Zhang Tianshao had mentioned that not everyone, even among the demons, could study in an academy. Zhang Tianshao smiled mysteriously and said, "You and Oppos, LLC when we arrive. Redemption Society has existed for many years. We always have our ways. Otherwise, Wooden and Oppos, we have perished long ago? To survive in front of such powerful demon clans, we naturally have some means." Kali City was vast. Although he had been here once, Tang San was unfamiliar with the terrain. However, Zhang Tianshao was very familiar with it. He walked briskly, leading Tang San through streets and alleys within the city. After walking for an hour and a half according to Tang San and Oppos' sense of direction, they were now somewhere in the eastern district of Kali City, fairly close to the city center. Zhang Tianshao slowed his pace. Tang San observed his surroundings. He noticed that the street they were walking on was very wide. To the right or east side of the street lay the foothills of rolling mountains. These mountains formed natural walls to the sides of Kali City. The foothills extended downward into the city, and the edge of these foothills was precisely where they were now. On the hillside, structures were built on various heights. Around these structures, trees of many different kinds stood tall, enveloping the buildings within. Zhang Tianshao explained as they walked, "The most prosperous and prestigious area of Kali City is the city center, where only the ancestral homes of the major families are built. Apart from the city center, the eastern side is the most affluent area. It and Oppos is generally inhabited by nobles who are independent of the clans. For instance, if you are of the noble class from the Wind Wolf clan, you can buy and build your own house without depending on the clan. The demon nobles in this area are also the wealthiest." Tang San memorized his words carefully. Knowing this information was crucial for understanding how things worked in Kali City. After all, he knew he would probably live here for a long time. He was only 9 years old, so it would be hard for him to leave on his own, not to mention that he was aware that Mei Gongzi was in this city, so he didn't want to leave anyway. Learning more about his surroundings and getting a deeper understanding of the demon clans was very important. The two continued forward, and in the distance Tang San saw a dense forest. It wasn't an Oppos until they approached the forest that Tang San noticed a wide avenue extending into its center. As they entered the forest area along the avenue, he immediately felt the air around them become fresher, and the elemental energy more abundant and comfortable. The concentration of elemental energy within Kali City was already richer than in the outside world, and here it was even more concentrated than in other areas of the city that he had visited. Cultivating in such a place would yield twice the result with half the effort. Indeed, it was a great place. After walking for about 10 minutes, Tang San could feel the terrain undulating upward. Far away, a tall wall appeared before them. These towering courtyard walls, built from the trunks of giant trees, were about 15 meters high, completely obscuring the view inside from the outside. In front were two large gates, the largest Tang San had seen in this world aside from the city gates of Kali City. The gates were even taller than the adjacent walls. A colossal plaque hung at the top, bearing several engraved characters. Tang San read out the words, Kali Academy. Xianxia Shao nodded and said, correct, this is Kali Academy. It and Appos. The highest level academy in all of Kali City. A higher education institution exists in every main city of the demon and nymph clans. Only those with exceptional talent or nobility are qualified to study here. The higher academy has many entry requirements, including age, cultivation level, background, and bloodline. Only those who meet these criteria are eligible to enroll. Is this our Redemption Society Academy? Tang San asked, puzzled. Zhang Tianxiao and Appos' mouth twitched slightly. I wish it was. If we had such an academy, would humans still be vassals? Come with me. Saying this, he pulled Tang San along, not continuing toward Kali Academy but instead taking a modest path into the mountains. Walking through the forest, they followed the outer walls of Kali Academy. After a long walk along the wall and continuing uphill, they seemed to have circled to the backside of the academy. In the distance, a cluster of houses came into Tang San and Appos' view. Due to the tall walls, Tang San couldn't and Appos' see the interior of Kali Academy, but the wooden houses before him felt familiar. They were similar to the buildings in Wind Wolf Town. These wooden houses were just outside the thick walls of Kali Academy. As Tang San followed Zhang Tianxiao closer, he immediately noticed that the area was predominantly inhabited by humans. Some people saw Zhang Tianxiao returning and greeted him with a smile. Old Zhang, you and Appos re back. How about a drink tonight? Not now, just got back, a bit tired, Zhang Tianxiao replied cheerfully. Tired? Did you get up to some mischief? Ha ha ha. The atmosphere here was surprisingly relaxed. Walking into this area, which was like a small town, Tang San saw that it was populated entirely by humans. He suddenly felt like he was in a different world. The number of humans living here was not small. There were at least a few thousand. To his surprise, all these thousands of people didn't and Appos' have the numbness typical of slaves. Most of them appeared calm and composed, just like the humans he'd known in his previous lives. Thousands of people. Are they all vassals? Are there this many vassals in Kali City? The atmosphere here was completely different from anywhere else. At least here, humans walked with their backs straight. This place. Is it? Tang San was just about to say something when his voice was silenced by a hand placed on his mouth. The name I told you, it and Appos' enough that only you know it. Don and Appos' speak it out loud, understand? Zhang Tianxiao said softly. Tang San nodded. As they walked, Zhang Tianxiao led him into the town. Are you curious about why there are so many people here and they and Appos' not slaves? Zhang Tianxiao said. This town exists because of Kali Academy. For both the demon and nymph clans, nurturing their offspring is paramount. Higher education institutions hold a high status among these two clans. Almost every higher academy is headed by the city and Appos' lord. The highest level of educational institutions is in the Sanctum Spiritus city, overseen directly by the ancestral court. Therefore, the level of Kali Academy is even above the city lord and Appos' mansion. Regardless of race, any demon clan member who can pass the entrance examination to study is an elite. Our town exists to serve Kali Academy. Do you understand? Tang San suddenly realized why the town was dependent on Kali Academy. Indeed, such a large academy would require vast resources and services. Although humans lacked innate abilities, only gaining some strength through demonic god transformation, their clever minds and skilled hands made them well suited to serve as vassals for the academy. He also understood why the so-called Redemption Academy could exist here. Namely, the Redemption Society could maintain its presence here with the prestigious academy as a cover. It was clearly one of their most important strongholds. Zhang Tianxiao led Tang San to a wooden house deep within the town and pushed open the courtyard door. He brought Tang San into the wooden house, instructed him to rest for a while, and then left. After Zhang Tianxiao left, Tang San observed his surroundings. The wooden house was simply furnished but had all the necessary living supplies. The elemental energy here was vibrant. Although he didn't know how it compared to the inside of Kali Academy, it was undoubtedly much more potent than in Wind Wolf Town and even richer than in other parts of Kali City. How far was this place from Mei Gongzi and Appo's tea shop in the city center? Once he settled down, he planned to find out. Tang San sat down in silence, thinking to himself, thousands of human vassals lived here. This place was the first sanctuary for humans he had seen. At least it was a sanctuary compared to the places he had seen before. Not long after Zhang Tianxiao returned, accompanying him was a tall, imposing man. This man appeared to be in his late 30s or 40s, and he stood over 2 meters tall. His body clearly brimmed with muscles, and his bare arms were as thick as a normal person's legs. His face was resolute, but his eyes were surprisingly calm. Is he the one? The tall man asked Zhang Tianxiao. Zhang Tianxiao, obviously respectful, replied, Yes, I and Appo's. We tested him. If you and Appo's re not convinced, feel free to test him yourself. The middle-aged man nodded silently and said to Tang San, Follow me. Tang San didn't and Appo's say much. Now that he was here, he had decided to go with the flow. He stood up and followed behind the middle-aged man and Zhang Tianxiao. The middle-aged man and Appo's status in the town seemed to be high, as people greeted him actively along the way. That was how people addressed him. This middle-aged man was the town and Appo's mayor. Tang San thought that a human mayor, not someone sent by the demon clans, was somewhat unusual. But he didn't and Appo's ask further, simply following behind the middle-aged man. They arrived at a wooden house towards the back of the town, and the mayor and Zhang Tianxiao led Tang San inside. The wooden house had only minimal decoration, but everything in it exuded strong vitality. The mayor looked calmly at Tang San and said, Introduce yourself, including what you and Appo's good at. Tang San answered briefly, My name is Tang San. I am from Wind Wolf Town, 9 years old. I have the Wind Wolf transformation ability, and I specialize in the Wind Blade ability. Hearing Tang San and Appo's confident voice, the mayor and Appo's eyes narrowed slightly, and he asked Zhang Tianxiao, You said he and Appo's at the fourth order? Zhang Tianxiao nodded, Yes. I and Appo's sparred with him. I could hardly withstand his wind blades. The way he controls them is the most exquisite I and Appo's ever seen. I also asked Wang Yanfeng, and he said that Tang San might have encountered our society's members a few years back and received some guidance. In any case, regardless of how he did it, to cultivate to the fourth order at such a young age, his talent is indeed remarkable. The mayor furrowed his brow in thought and said, All right, leave him to me. You go and rest, you and Appo's who worked hard. This situation is more troublesome than we anticipated. There and Appo's significant activity at the Wind Wolf Ancestral House. Go and help Zheng Mengqi sort the trouble out. Yes, Zhang Tianxiao respectfully bowed to the mayor, and then turned to leave the wooden house. Once he left, only Tang San and the mayor remained in the wooden house. The mayor looked calmly at him, and Tang San returned the gaze with equal calmness. Do you want to die or live? The mayor asked suddenly. Tang San was startled, and the next moment he felt a chill run down his spine. A tangible, powerful aura brimming with killing intent suddenly burst forth from the mayor sitting on the chair. This terrifying aura made the air around them turn icy cold, and even the light within the wooden house seemed to dim momentarily, as if they had been transported into a realm of shadows. Tang San instinctively took a half-step back, rapidly circulating the energy of the mysterious heaven technique within. Although he didn't in Appo's know why the mayor was suddenly showing killing intent toward him, self-preservation was undoubtedly the most important thing right now. In the next instant, the mayor moved. He grasped at the air with his right hand, and simultaneously, a deep roar suddenly resounded beside Tang San and Appo's ears. The roar was so sudden that Tang San felt his brain reel into dizziness. At that exact moment, Tang San and Appo's discerning eye reacted instinctively, a faint golden hue appearing in his eyes. It helped him regain some clarity. His energy circulation accelerated, and he suddenly unleashed the ironhide shield. Facing a life-or-death situation, he dared not hold back. Relying on all his senses to guide him, he moved his hands before him, each drawing a semicircle. The gentle force of the mysterious heaven technique redirected the sharp aura to the side. Meanwhile, Tang San and Appo's body moved like lightning, employing the ghost shadow perplexing track, and he dashed straight for the window. He chose the window over the door because it was closer. Ah! The mayor exclaimed softly. In the next instant, Tang San felt the air around him become scorching hot. Under his discerning eye, he was horrified to see that the air inside the wooden house was utterly filled with fire elemental energy, displacing all other elements. An overwhelmingly powerful aura engulfed him, the intense heat instantly causing his clothes to dry until they seemed like they would catch on fire at any moment. His mysterious heaven technique protected his body, overlapping with the ironhide shield, creating a layer of white light that acted like armor, resisting the scorching energy. At the same time, Tang San and Appo's figure flashed and he almost instantly reached the window. "You can," and Appo's escape, a deep voice sounded in his ears. In the next moment, the surrounding fire elements suddenly vanished, along with the intense heat. But in their place came an overwhelming force of attraction, pulling his body backward through the air. At that moment, Tang San gave up resistance, his face showing a sense of resignation. There was no way to resist. It was a complete, overpowering difference in level. Even with his myriad skills, he could do nothing in face of such a disparity. The mayor had already stood up. In front of his chair, within the palm of his right hand, was a cluster of dark red light. The immense suction force emanating from this red glow pulled at Tang San, making it impossible for him to break free. Fourth order? No, indeed, this is the early stage of the fifth order, right? To think that your cultivation would be this high, the mayor said in surprise, looking at the child before him. Tang San was shocked to see the mayor's cultivation level, but the latter was even more astonished. A 9-year-old human child being at the fourth order was already remarkable. As for being at the fifth order at that age, that was simply ridiculous. The mayor retracted his right hand, and Tang San stood before him. He looked somewhat pale, with a hint of fear in his eyes. Of course, this fear was feigned. Tang San had some guesses as to what was going on, and the only feeling in his heart right now was frustration. He Shuden and Appo's have responded as he had just now. He had revealed too much. At this moment his mind raced, contemplating how to handle the situation. "You are not simple," the mayor said. He stared intently at Tang San, but deep in his eyes, there was also a hint of shock. Indeed, Tang San and Appo's guess was correct. The mayor and Appo's sudden attack was more of a probe. With his cultivation level, the mayor had sensed Tang San and Appo's power the moment he had laid eyes on him. Though Tang San had been trying to suppress it, the massive difference in their levels and fluctuations in his energy and blood were impossible to conceal. At the very least, he could not conceal them with his current abilities. Thus, the mayor had released his killing intent and made a probing move. However, this test proved significant, as the potential and abilities Tang San displayed in the face of a life-and-death crisis truly surprised the mayor. Tang San simply lowered his head and remained silent. He inwardly sighed, acknowledging that since his rebirth, he had indeed been influenced by the inherent weaknesses of his body, impairing his judgment. If it were before, how could he have failed to realize that the other party was merely testing him? His ironhide shield and leopard flash abilities had been exposed, and it was possible that his discerning eye had been revealed as well. These abilities, all appearing in one person, completely contradicted the principles of the demonic god transformation. The mayor and Appo's initially calm eyes now held unmistakable curiosity, clearly stemming from what he had witnessed. "Speak up. What in Appo's going on?" the mayor asked. "How come you possess the abilities of several clans?" Tang San remained silent, head still lowered. The mayor sat back down and looked straight at Tang San's face. "I only tested you because I sensed that your cultivation had reached the fifth order. There was no other intention. Demons can't pretend they're humans even if they want to. Also, we and Appo's investigated your background and it and Appo's clean. However, your abilities are completely beyond the scope of our investigation. Tang San slowly raised his head, looking at the mayor, already formulating a plan. The worst-case scenario would be the mayor coveting his mysterious heaven technique and trying to interrogate him using torture. In this case, Tang San's last resort would be to trigger his divine consciousness, unleashing all his power. It might not destroy everything around, but escaping Wuden and Appos, be an issue. He could even kill the mayor, even though the latter had a much higher level. But doing so would make it exceedingly difficult for him to establish himself in Kali City. This was the absolute worst-case scenario. At any rate, his abilities had been revealed, so the first order of business was to produce a reasonable explanation. Mayor, I didn't and Appos, mean to hide it. It and Appos. It's just that my abilities are different from the normal demonic god transformation. I was afraid. Tang San spoke hesitantly, knowing he had to act in this situation. Does Wang Yanfeng know about this? The mayor asked gravely. Tang San quickly said, you and Appos. The first to know. The mayor seemed to relax slightly. Alright, tell me. How did you get these abilities? Tang San began. When I was young, I was playing in the forest one day and came across a severely injured human. Demons of the Wind Wolf clan were pursuing him. I saw them fighting and was so scared that I hid behind a tree. Then I saw him kill several wind wolves that were chasing him, but he was also gravely injured. The mayor nodded, aware of Tang San and Appos' encounter with the master in his childhood. He had heard this from Zhang Tianxiao and Appos' report, which originated from Wang Yanfeng. Tang San continued, I gathered my courage and went out to help him. Seeing that I was human, he told me he Wuden and Appos' make it and handed me a book. He instructed me to join the Redemption Society in the future and to destroy the book after memorizing it. A book? The mayor asked, surprised. What book? Tang San explained, the book was called Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record. It contained a cultivation method and a number of auxiliary arts. At that time I hadn't an Appos' yet awakened the demonic god transformation. Later I did as he said. I memorized the book in Appos' contents and then I burned it, fearing I would forget. I recited it daily and gradually learned some unique abilities called the Mysterious Heaven Technique. At first I didn't in Appos' know what it was for. Until one time, I accidentally touched a wind wolf and felt that the Mysterious Heaven Technique's power was absorbing something from it. From that moment I gained the wind blade ability. Listening to this, the mayor Kuden and Appos' helped but gripped the armrests of his chair tightly. However, he did not interrupt Tang San. Tang San kept a close eye on his interlocutor's facial expression. In the mayor and Appos' eyes, he did not see greed but rather nervousness and contemplation. I continued to cultivate, and my Mysterious Heaven Technique improved. It seems to have 9 levels, and each corresponds to an order of the demon clans. By touching and absorbing some abilities of the wind wolves, I learned to control the wind blade. But I can't actually perform the true wind wolf transformation. I passed the initial test for becoming a wind wolf clan vassal and I became Teacher Wang's student. And I've been learning under his guidance until now. But in reality, I don't really have a wind wolf transformation at all. The fact that I can use the wind blade is only due to the Mysterious Heaven Technique. And what method do you use to control the wind blades? Did you also learn that from the book? The mayor asked. Tang San nodded, yes. Do you remember the name of the person who gave you the book? The mayor inquired. He seemed to be called Zhu Jiesan, Tang San replied. Zhu Jiesan? Hearing this name, the mayor and Appos' eyes noticeably flickered. He clearly recognized the name. Did Zhu Jiesan tell you where the book came from when he gave it to you? Tang San shook his head. Of course, there was no way to verify his claim, since Zhu Jiesan was dead. Then later, you absorbed the abilities of other demon clan species during the collision contest? The mayor asked. Tang San nodded. He was not surprised. It made sense that the other party had investigated his past experiences thoroughly, and his use of Leopard Flash, Ironhide Shield, and Discerning Eye just now corresponded with the abilities of the demons he encountered in the collision contest. The mayor took a deep breath. Your abilities are extraordinary. Tang San probed, I can tell you the method of cultivation. Would you like to learn it? No. The mayor instantly blurted out. The fire element in the surrounding air became denser again, but it wasn't an Appos' directed at Tang San this time. Instead, it completely sealed off the room. The mayor stood up, his brows tightly furrowed. Tang San could feel that his interlocutor was in a state of really high tension. He paced back and forth in the room, his uneven steps revealing his anxiety. After a long while, he returned to face Tang San, his expression somewhat pained. The abilities you learned from that book are exceptional, but they might not necessarily be a good thing for the Redemption Society, at least not now. The mysterious heaven technique has only 9 levels, right? Tang San nodded. Of course, he wooed and oppose. T mentioned that he could continue cultivating this technique up to the level of God King. The original mysterious heaven method indeed only had 9 levels, but during his past life, he had improved it based on his own experiences. Now that his unique abilities had been discovered, he chose to tell a half-truth, half-false version. After all, in the eyes of the mayor, he was still a child and he was bound to be underestimated. The mayor wouldn't expect a cornered child to lie to his face so easily. The mayor looked at him with a complex gaze. Tang San, remember my words. From now on, Don and Oppose. T tell anyone what you and Oppose. You just told me. Apart from me, no one else in the Redemption Society must know. I want and Oppose. T report this to the organization either. Tang San was momentarily stunned, not expecting such a reaction from the mayor. He had thought that the mayor and Oppose's first request would be for the mysterious heaven technique, and he actually was and Oppose. T opposed to this idea. If more people could become stronger by cultivating the mysterious heaven technique and humanity as a whole would be empowered, it would naturally be good. The mysterious heaven technique had become rather widespread in his previous world thanks to him. It was just a primary cultivation method, and it was by far not enough in and of itself to determine the strength of an individual. Mayor, I am willing to write down the mysterious heaven technique and offer it to the organization. It would be of great help to the Redemption Society, Tang San said. The mayor looked at him with a somewhat surprised expression, but then shook his head without hesitation, saying, no, you shouldn't oppose. T. Later, you can explain the method of cultivating the mysterious heaven technique to me. I would like to reference it, but apart from me, you must not tell anyone about this. Tang San was confused. Why not? The mayor replied with a bitter smile, I can tell you and Oppose. Much more mature than other children your age. I Don and Oppose. T want you to reveal the existence of the mysterious heaven technique, due to several issues. First, its limit is only 9 levels, and as far as I know, no one besides you has ever cultivated it. We Don and Oppose. T know how powerful it can make you. It and Oppose, likely comparable to the 9th order of the demon and nymph clans, but if it's only that strong, then it can and Oppose. T make humans all that much stronger. The strength of true great demons and celestial nymphs is beyond your imagination. Secondly, although the mysterious heaven technique can and Oppose T be cultivated to higher levels, its special ability to learn various powers from the demon and nymph clans is just too frightening. It allows humans to acquire abilities through cultivation without needing bloodline inheritance for demonic god transformation. This would completely overturn the entire learning system of humans and make it easier for us to acquire abilities. I sin and Oppose. T that a good thing? Tang San asked, puzzled. The mayor and Oppose's face grew even more bitter. A good thing? It and Oppose's a terrible thing that could bring disaster to humanity. The demon and nymph clans are well aware that our intelligence is much greater than theirs. Think about it for a second. What would they do if they found out that we could learn all their abilities through absorption? They might resort to exterminating us to eliminate possible threats. Do you think that in Oppose a good thing? The mayor's explanation brought a lot of clarity to Tang San. After all, he wasn't and Oppose T entirely familiar with this world yet, and the mayor and Oppose's concerns certainly made sense. If the demon and nymph clans discovered that humans could absorb and learn their abilities through the mysterious heaven technique, their reaction could be, in fact, catastrophic. And Tang San hadn't even mentioned yet that the mysterious heaven technique could allow the user to absorb the bloodline power of demons and nymphs and drain them to death. The mayor took a deep breath and continued, therefore, apart from you and me, no one else can know of the existence of the mysterious heaven technique. We will protect you and you should continue your cultivation. However, you must not reveal this ability again, unless it's the only thing that can save you from death. Otherwise, it will surely bring disaster to humanity. Do you understand? The struggle for the survival of humans in front of the demon and nymph clans is already too difficult. We've started to see a glimmer of hope, and your mysterious heaven technique could also be considered one of those things that we put our hope in, but for now it must not be discovered. Of course, Tang San had no intention of holding back if the situation actually required all his power, but he nodded in agreement. The mayor and Appo's eyes shone. Of course, if you face a strong enemy in the future and you die otherwise, you should use it. I hope to see you cultivate the mysterious heaven technique to its highest level soon so we can evaluate the effects of its highest level. Once we make sure of that, we can decide how to spread this cultivation technique around. The reason I asked you to tell me was that I wanted to reference it and to have a backup record just in case, but I say this again, no one else can know for now. You Haven and Appo's taught the mysterious heaven technique to anyone else, have you? Tang San shook his head. I only taught teacher Wang the method of controlling wind blade. In reality, he had experimented with Ling Muxua to see if she could learn the mysterious heaven technique, but she didn't, and Appo's know it was the mysterious heaven technique. Since she already had a demonic god transformation, the attempt was a failure. He did not mention it to avoid causing further trouble for Ling Muxua and the others. The mayor and Appo's reaction was unexpected for Tang San, but it was acceptable. Although his current spiritual power wasn't Appo's very high, the bit of divine consciousness hidden within his spiritual power was sufficient to discern whether a person and Appo's words were sincere. Good. Remember, you must never mention anything you and Appo's told me today to anyone else, including those within our organization. I will record a confidential file on your entire situation. As long as I and Appo's am alive, no one will be able to access it, not even those of higher rank in our organization. If I die, my successor will get this file and contact you. The fewer people know, the safer you are. He paused momentarily, and a glint seemed to flash in his eyes. If this technique can be taken to a higher level and we are able to do that within a reasonable time frame, then perhaps humanity will have its opportunity. Tang San repeatedly nodded, unsure what else to say. When the mayor discovered his secret, Tang San was prepared to silence him. His most powerful trump card was the bit of divine consciousness he had brought from his previous life. Once unleashed, he believed it could solve most problems. However, using it meant depleting that divine consciousness, and recovering it before reaching the god level would be impossible. Unexpectedly for Tang San, the mayor and Appo's reaction was even better than the best scenario he had anticipated. Not only would the mayor keep the secret himself, but he also instructed Tang San to do the same. This raised Tang San and Appo's estimation of the Redemption Society even higher. Become my disciple, the mayor suddenly suggested. Tang San was momentarily stunned. Become your disciple? The mayor looked at him, his gaze returning to its usual calmness. What else? Right? What else could Tang San say after all? When under someone's roof, he had to follow their rules. With that in mind, he immediately knelt and paid his respects. The mayor nodded in satisfaction, and a hint of a smile appeared on his calm face. Xiao San, if one day it can be proven that the technique you are cultivating is suitable for all of humanity, I hope you will agree to contribute to it. To contribute significantly to the rise of our human race. Yes, Tang San inwardly scoffed. You already know everything. What more do you want me to contribute? My name is Zhang Haoshuan. My demonic god transformation is the Blaze Tiger King. The Blaze Tiger ranks second among the Tiger-type demons, only behind the golden bloodline of the Tiger Emperor. I am at the 9th order. 9th order? Tang San and Appo's heart jolted. He had just encountered this most powerful being since coming to this world. Although he had felt utterly overwhelmed during their brief face-off, now hearing Zhang Haoshuan state it, he understood the extent of his cultivation. Compared to his previous life, this was akin to being at the peak below a god-level soul master, comparable to a titled Douluo. And from what Zhang Haoshuan implied, his demonic god transformation and Appo's bloodline power was also remarkable. The mayor said, and Appo's, from now on, you are a part of the Redemption Society. Based on your cultivation level, you could have directly become an Orange class member. But to conceal your strength, let and Appo's start from the initial Red class. And Appos? Without waiting for Tang San to ask, the mayor continued, and Appos. In our Redemption Society, every member is ranked. Different classes grant different levels of authority. There are 7 classes in total, corresponding to the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Red is the lowest, and violet is the highest. As a newcomer, you naturally start at the red class. With accumulated merit, you can be promoted. To encourage everyone to improve their cultivation and speed up training, according to the rules of our organization, a 5th order existence, regardless of their accumulated merits, can be promoted to orange as long as they are an official member. That and Appos. That's why I said you could have the orange class. And Appos, once you reach the 7th order of cultivation, you can naturally be promoted to the yellow class. The 9th order corresponds to the green class. This is the limit up to which you can be promoted solely based on cultivation. For the top 3 classes, besides having high cultivation, you must also make significant contributions to the organization to be eligible. 7 colors of the rainbow. Interesting. Tang San murmured to himself. Master, what class are you? Zhang Haoshuan said, I am green class. Those green class and above are considered the upper echelons of the organization. Here in Cali City, I am one of the leaders, and I am responsible for handling daily affairs. Tang San asked, so are you the highest ranked redemption member here? Zhang Haoshuan shook his head and replied, no, there are 2 others here whose class is higher than mine, but their situation is quite special, and they Don and Appos. T directly manage the organization and Appos' affairs here. In Cali City, I am basically the one in charge. Understood, Tang San said. This explanation told him a lot about the Redemption Society. Zhang Haoshuan explained, to conceal our identities and avoid detection by the demon race, our organization has a special secret method to verify identities. I will imprint this secret method on the back of your hand. When you are in front of a higher class redemption member, they can use the secret method to detect your mark. Similarly, you can also display your mark to others to verify your identity, which can be helpful in times of need. Master, are all the people in this town members of our organization? Tang San asked, voicing his most pressing question. Zhang Haoshuan shook his head and said, of course not. How could we possibly have so many members? Too many people would lead to chaos and exposure would be catastrophic. Only about 1 in 100 are members of the organization. You and Appos, LL gradually learn who they are. Of course, you must also conceal your identity. This is why I accepted you as my disciple, because I need to give you a legitimate identity. You Don and Appos. T need to worry about anything else. Just focus on your cultivation. I and Appos, LL give you a brief overview of the town. As I'm sure you were told, our small town relies on Cali Academy for its existence. Hence, it and Appos, also known as Academy Town. It and Appos, specifically designed to serve Cali Academy, and most people in the town work in the academy in one position or another. As vassals, we receive quite good treatment in the academy. Also, the demons here are of higher caliber and Don and Appos, T harm vassals without reason. Working in the academy is also a form of experience, and it can benefit us in many ways. You and Appos, LL learn more about this later. When the time is right, I and Appos, LL let you enter the academy for training. 1. Shao means little and is a familiar form of address for an inferior, e.g. one's child, a younger friend or colleague etc. So that and Appos, how it is, Tang San nodded. Considering the thousands here, does 1% mean that only a few dozen truly belong to the Redemption Society? That and Appos, not many. But a tighter organization is better. My newly sworn teacher probably one and Appos. T tell me the more specific details for now, given that I and Appos, V just joined the organization. Teacher, I heard from Senior Zhang Tianxiao before that we have our own school that's called Redemption Academy? Zhang Haoshuan nodded and said, yes, the most important task we have is cultivating reserve talents for the organization. Since we and Appos, re-adjacent to Cali Academy, we can also utilize some of the resources from Cali Academy. So, within the organization from now on, you and Appos, a part of Redemption Academy. You can study together with others. Alright, Tang San nodded. He naturally felt an affinity towards the term academy. Zhang Haoshuan continued, first, I and Appos, LL brand a mark on you to establish your identity as a member of the Redemption Society. Then I and Oppos, LL bring you to report to our Redemption Academy. Remember this clearly. You must not reveal anything about the mysterious heaven technique. Also Don and Oppos, T use the imprints of other demon race abilities in front of others. You have only one ability and that is the Wind Blade. The brand resembled a tattoo in both appearance and method of imprinting. Namely, Zhang Haoshuan used a fine needle dipped in a special liquid to etch a mark on the back of Tang San and Oppos' right hand. The mark was somewhat like a snowflake but with more pronounced curves. Once completed it turned red. The red snowflake was truly beautiful, but there was a tragic undertone to it. Once the mark was tattooed and the liquid fully absorbed, it simply vanished from the skin and Oppos' surface. Zhang Haoshuan also showed Tang San how to reveal the mark. He had to stimulate the bloodline power within, circulating it in a special rhythm under the skin to make it appear. It was quite peculiar. After doing all this, Zhang Haoshuan nodded in satisfaction. Let an Oppos' go I and Oppos' LL take you to the academy. Following him out of the wooden hut, Tang San subconsciously glanced at the spot where the mark was imprinted on his hand. From this moment, he had truly become a member of the Redemption Society. He wondered how this day would be recorded in the history of the Demon Continent. If he could regain his former glory in the future, then today might be a day worth commemorating. Zhang Haoshuan led Tang San toward the back of Academy Town. They walked almost to the mid-mountain area before stopping in front of a cluster of wooden houses. The wood used in constructing these houses was close to the color of mountain rocks, making them not easily noticeable from the town. Upon coming closer, however, one could see that there were quite a few wooden houses here. They were built on a small plateau and they were forming a circle. Just as they approached the wooden houses, a figure appeared before them, a young boy, appearing to be around 13 or 14 years old. He smiled at Zhang Haoshuan and said, Mayor, you and Oppos' arrived. Zhang Haoshuan nodded to him. I and Oppos' brought a newcomer. The boy looked at Tang San, his face immediately showing surprise. Such a young newcomer. Didn't you tell us that newbies must be at least 12 and pass a test before coming here? Why so many questions? Lead the way, Zhang Haoshuan said somewhat irritably. Clearly intimidated, the boy turned around and led the way. Passing the foremost wooden house, they arrived at a spacious yard behind it, surrounded by other wooden houses resembling a large courtyard. The mayor is here, the boy shouted. Immediately, more than a dozen people popped out from the wooden houses. Indeed, popped out was the term that came to mind seeing the energetic teenagers jump out of the houses like mongooses. Following them, a few adults came out. Tang San stood beside Zhang Haoshuan, observing coolly. He noticed that there were more young males than females here. Their bloodline auras were different but all noticeably strong. It was not that they were personally powerful, but their bloodlines were undeniably powerful. It seemed that the requirements for talent to enter the Redemption Academy were quite high. Naturally, these youngsters were also curiously sizing him up. After all, Tang San was clearly quite a bit younger than them. Zhang Haoshuan clapped his hands, drawing everyone in Oppos' attention. This is my newly accepted disciple, Tang San. Starting today, he will also be studying in the academy. Old Guan, please make the arrangements. A middle-aged man of average build and scholarly appearance approached him with surprise on his face. Your new disciple? You and Oppos' taken on a disciple? Zhang Haoshuan nodded. This child is quite special and has great potential. I and Oppos' LL discuss it with you later. Please arrange everything for now. All right, Guan nodded without further comment. Zhang Haoshuan turned to Tang San and said, This is Guan Longjiang, the dean in charge of the academy. He will arrange your accommodation and studies. I will come to see you regularly. I have other matters to attend to now. Don and Oppos' forget my instructions today. Yes, teacher, Tang San nodded. Zhang Haoshuan pulled Guan Longjiang aside to speak privately, then prepared to leave. Seeing this, Tang San quickly stepped forward and called out to Zhang Haoshuan. Teacher, hold on a second. What is it? You and Oppos' I'll have to adapt to the new environment slowly. Zhang Haoshuan thought Tang San was apprehensive about the unfamiliar setting. However, Tang San shook his head. I and Oppos' am sure I can adapt. I wanted to ask if I can go out to the city sometimes to buy some necessities. Guan Longzhang glanced at him, somewhat surprised. Zhang Haoshuan replied, try not to go out, but if you must ask Dean Guan for leave and only go out with his approval. And you must return on the same day. Being able to go out was enough. How else would he meet Mei Gongzi? After all, the most important reason Tang San had returned to Cali City was to meet Mei Gongzi. With that, Zhang Haoshuan left. Come Tang San, let and Oppos. Meet everyone. Guan Longzhang led Tang San back to the courtyard and Oppos' center as he spoke. Including you, we now have 16 students in our academy, and including me and the mayor, there are 5 teachers. Let me introduce the other 3 teachers to you. He first pointed to a beautiful woman who appeared to be around 25 or 26 years old. This is teacher Mu Yunyu. She is mainly responsible for your daily life and physical training. Mu Yunyu was tall, around 1.7 meters, and she was wearing a blue dress. Her gaze was soft like water, and her large eyes brimmed with gentleness and tenderness. However, Tang San noticed that when Guan Longzhang introduced her, the other students around clearly showed a hint of dread. He had a hint that teacher Mu and Oppos' personality was not terribly consistent with her outward appearance. Hello, teacher Mu. Tang San immediately greeted Mu Yunyu with a bow. Mu Yunyu smiled slightly, and her voice was coquettish as she greeted him. Hello, little Tang San. Welcome to the academy. I see that you're a little frail. I think you do well to up your physical training a little. No worries, we'll take care of that. Thank you, teacher. Tang San nodded immediately. However, her coquettish voice gave him goosebumps. Guan Longzhang frowned slightly, coughed, and pointed to another middle-aged man. Teacher Muanqing, the elder brother of Mu Yunyu. He is responsible for practical combat courses. Muanqing looked nothing like Mu Yunyu. His tall stature and rough facial features conveyed a sense of manly boldness. It was hard to imagine that he and the delicate and beautiful Mu Yunyu were actually siblings. The last teacher introduced was an elderly man, whom Guan Longzhang chose to introduce last, indicating a higher status. Teacher Siru is responsible for teaching things about the demonic god transformation. I and Oppos am in charge of social practice. The mayor oversees the entire academy. Tang San greeted each of the teachers in turn. Among them, the one who left the deepest impression on him was the unassuming elderly man. Siru appeared to be in his 50s or 60s, slightly hunched, not very tall, with graying hair and an ordinary face, always wearing a gentle smile. He seemed amiable and approachable. When Guan Longzhang introduced him, almost all the students smiled, clearly having a very good impression of this teacher. However, this was not what made him special. What made him stand out to Tang San was the fact that among these teachers, only this one stirred Tang San and Oppos' divine consciousness. Tang San understood very well what it meant for his divine consciousness to be affected. If truly unleashed, this remnant of his divine consciousness could allow him to burst forth with immense power in an instant. Tang San himself did not know how strong it could be, as he had obviously never given up his cultivation as a god king in order to be reborn. But the stirring of his divine consciousness indicated something very clear to him. Even if he used that trace of divine consciousness, he might be unable to contend with this individual. Yes, that was what he felt. Even when facing the mayor, who possessed ninth order cultivation, he did not have this feeling. This meant that Siru was probably even stronger than the mayor. A god-level master? Could he be a powerhouse who has already reached the god level? Tang San was shocked, but his expression did not betray his inner bewilderment. Guan Longzhang smiled and said, Tang San, why Don and Oppos? Do you introduce yourself to everyone? Tang San replied, I am Tang San. My demonic god transformation is the Wind Wolf transformation, and my ability is the Wind Blade. I am at the 4th order. Several exclamations arose among the students when he mentioned being at the 4th order. After all, he looked younger than all the other students present, so how was it that his cultivation was so high? After all, the Wind Wolf transformation was not considered a powerful demonic god transformation. Guan Longzhang, obviously aware of his situation, nodded and said, I want and Oppos. To introduce all of you right now, you can talk to each other later. Tang San, since you and Oppos renew today, take a day to rest, and you and Oppos LL officially join the classes tomorrow. Dubai, Guan Longzhang called out, and immediately a slim teenager ran over. Here, Guan Longjiang said to the quirky-looking teenager and said, "You take Tang San and help him settle down. Give him a brief introduction to the academy. Let him stay in the third room in the east. He gets his own room? The third east room is still unoccupied," the teenager known as Dubai said, clearly envious. Less talking, Guan Longjiang scolded. Dubai stuck out his tongue. "All right, leave it to me. Tang San, let and Appos s go. I and Appos, I'll take you to the dormitory." "Thank you," Tang San replied, following Dubai to one side of the courtyard. He could feel the curious gazes of students and even teachers on him. He also sensed that the students here possessed extraordinary abilities. More importantly, the atmosphere here was much more vibrant than in Wind Wolf Town, giving him a sense of the human world from his past life. At least his initial impression of the Redemption Society was positive, even though he still didn't Appos know what the organization exactly did. Dubai led Tang San towards the east side, chatting familiarly. "Tang San, Teacher Guan is nice to you. We all share rooms, but you get your own. Having your own room is great, your own private space. I wish I could have my own room too." Tang San just smiled without saying much. Having his own room was probably arranged by Zhang Heoxuan to conceal his cultivation of the mysterious heaven technique. Being alone was better, it made things easier no matter what he was doing. However, now that he was here, sneaking out alone would be difficult, at least for now. The teachers here were not like teacher Wang Yanfeng. Concealing his presence from their perception to sneak out was nearly an impossible task. Unless he obtained another high-order bloodline imprint that granted him hiding abilities, he would have to ask for permission before going out. The room was spacious. It actually wasn't just a bedroom, but also included a living room of about 20 square meters, as well as a private bathroom. Altogether, it was around 60 or 70 square meters and felt very spacious, even though it was fully furnished. For Tang San, who had started his life in this world as a slave, this was certainly a luxury. "I and Appos, I'll take you to buy some more living essentials later, and then you can move in," Dubai said with a grin. Tang San replied, "Thank you for your trouble." Dubai laughed. No need to be so polite. We and Appos, we're all going to be one big family from now on. By the way, do you know what my demonic god transformation is? Tang San, taken aback, shook his head. "Look into my eyes," Dubai suddenly said. Out of sheer reflex, Tang San turned to look at him. When their eyes met, he suddenly noticed a bright white halo in Dubai and Appos' eyes, with faint rings of light radiating outward from the center. The moment their eyes locked, Tang San felt a slight dizziness. But within the core of his spiritual power was a strand of divine consciousness. Almost instantly, a burst of purple light radiated from his eyes. The purple demon eyes had reacted spontaneously. When that flash of purple light appeared, Dubai seemed as if he had been struck by lightning. He screamed, stumbled back 2 steps, and fell to the ground. All of this happened so fast that even Tang San was unprepared. Dubai and Appos' scream was so loud that it startled him. The door was flung open almost immediately, and a figure rushed in like the wind. "What happened?" a sharp voice called out. Tang San felt a sudden chill, as if the air around him had frozen. An ice attribute demonic god transformation? This was the first thought that crossed his mind. At this moment, Dubai was rolling on the ground with his hands on his eyes. The one who had rushed in was none other than Mu Yunyu. She saw Dubai rolling on the ground and Tang San standing there somewhat dazedly. Without further questioning, she squatted down and pulled Dubai in front of her with one hand. A cool energy flowed slowly from her other hand into Dubai's face, causing Dubai to shiver but noticeably calming him down. At this point, other teachers and students also rushed over. Tang San said bewilderedly, "I Don and Appos, know what happened?" He asked if I knew what his demonic god transformation was, and I said no. Then he told me to look into his eyes. I felt dizzy and he ended up. Guan Longjiang and Appos' mouth twitched. Psychic backlash? By now, Dubai seemed to be more or less stabilized, though he was still twitching slightly and mumbling incoherently. Guan Longjiang said to Mu Yunyu, "Take him to rest." What an idiot, always trying to pry into others' business just because he has that ability. This should be a lesson for him. Serves him right. He then turned to Tang San and said, "Dubai and Appos' demonic god transformation comes from a very special heritage from a demon clan called the Celestial Foxes. The Celestial Fox clan is not very good at combat, but in spite of that, they are the royal family of the fox demons. They possess the Celestial Fox Vision ability, which is said to be capable of peering into the very secrets of heaven and earth. The Celestial Fox Demon King holds a very high status in the ancestral court of the demon continent, and is regarded as one of the two great prophets. Of course, Dubai and Appo's Celestial Fox Vision is not yet fully trained. He can use it to peer into others and Appo's abilities, but his own heart is not stable and strong enough. He must be weaker in spiritual power than you, so when he tried to probe you, he suffered a backlash. There should be no big problem. Celestial Fox Vision? Tang San and Appo's heart stirred. This ability sounded magnificent. And was the Celestial Fox Demon King one of the two great seers of the ancestral court? That would mean standing at the very pinnacle of the demon continent. To think that one of his new colleagues possessed such a demonic god transformation inheritance. If I could acquire this bloodline imprint, could the Celestial Fox Vision and the Discerning Eye possibly merge? If I could improve the Discerning Eye some more. The advantages brought by the Discerning Eye were clear. Enhanced mental strength, improved vision, the ability to glimpse the secrets of the elements, and even a certain degree of fortune and misfortune avoidance. The only issue is that it was practically impossible to enhance the level of the Discerning Eye by absorbing bloodline energy, as it is a fusion of two abilities, Discerning Heart and Appo's Gaze and Falcon Eye. Tang San had initially planned to continue devouring the bloodline powers of the white-headed falcon demon and the other horned deer to see if he could further improve the Discerning Eye. However, hearing about the Celestial Fox Vision, he couldn't and Appo's help feeling intrigued. What if he continued to merge other vision-related demonic god transformation abilities with the Discerning Eye? Could he do that? And if he could, would it induce a further qualitative change in the Discerning Eye? The Celestial Fox Vision is likely one of this plane's most potent bloodline powers. It and Appo's a great choice. Teacher Guan, what order is Dubai? Tang San asked curiously. Guan Longjiang said, third order. All celestial fox demons are at the first order at birth and very fragile at that. The inheritance of the celestial fox bloodline is extremely rare and always greatly valued. In fact, Dubai is the only known human with the celestial fox transformation inheritance. This must be kept secret and never mentioned outside. Tang San quickly nodded. He won in Appo's. Be in trouble, will he? Guan Longjiang said, no, he and Appo's will be fine. The spiritual power of the celestial fox transformation is very stable, which gives birth to... He stopped himself, then continued, you rest first. When he and Appo's better, I and Appo's I'll have him come and apologize to you. No need, no need. I should apologize for injuring him, said Tang San, somewhat awkwardly. He could feel the surprised looks of the other students. He was not the first one to be probed by Dubai. But to have made Dubai suffer a loss, he was definitely a rarity, if not even the first one. When the teachers and students of the Redemption Society had all left, Tang San let loose a sigh of relief. The incident with Dubai significantly raised his assessment of the Redemption Society. The Celestial Fox transformation must be among the highest-tier bloodlines in the demon race. Even if Dubai and Appo's bloodline wasn't Appo's pure enough to compare with an actual Celestial Fox demon, Guan Longjiang had mentioned that he was the only human to inherit the Celestial Fox transformation, highlighting his importance. To be able to come to the Redemption Society and to be specially cultivated by the organization, there probably wasn't an Appo's a single ordinary person among them. The other students were also definitely talented. In terms of bloodline, his Wind Wolf transformation was probably the weakest among all. With Dubai mentally injured, the first problem Tang San faced was that there was now no one to take him shopping for daily necessities. Just as he prepared to make do and meditate on the wooden bed that night, someone knocked at the door again. Please come in. Tang San stood up and left the bedroom. The door opened and a petite figure walked in. This girl looked slightly older than Tang San, probably about the same age as Mei Gongzi. She had a high ponytail, fair and delicate skin, and beautiful blue eyes. When she smiled, two small dimples appeared on her cheeks. Hello, Tang San greeted her first. Hello, I and Appo's, Chung Zicheng. I and Appo's. We come to take you shopping for daily necessities, Chung Zicheng said with a smile. Thank you for your trouble, Tang San said with a smile. The teachers are thoughtful. It and Appos. No trouble at all. Consider it a thank you, Cheng Ziqing giggled. Thank you? Tang San was puzzled. Cheng Ziqing nodded. Yes, that Dubai is so annoying. He and Appos. Always prying with his celestial fox vision, always peeping at us girls. I want to poke those precious eyes of his out, humph. Tang San clearly felt a murderous aura from her, and he couldn't and Appos. Help but think to himself that one should never cause offense to a woman. No matter their age, they were all the same when they were down for revenge. Cheng Ziqing smiled. Now it and Appos good though. He and Appos at a disadvantage with you. The teacher said he can and Appos use his celestial fox vision for at least half a month. Serves him right. Tang San gave a wry smile. I didn't and Appos do it on purpose. His injuries aren't in Appos serious, are they? It'll be fine. The Celestial Fox clan is known as the Children of Fortune. They and Appos. Lucky and not so easily harmed. We and Appos. All surprised that you could injure him. Normally we also want to mess with him, but there are always some strange situations and this guy slips away. And whoever wants to deal with him ends up having bad luck. So annoying. You should be careful too. Now that you and Appos injured him, you must watch out for your luck. Though now that I think of it, the fact that you could hurt him means that your luck must be good too. Is that a thing? Children of Fortune? Dubai and Appos. Luck didn't work on him, which Tang San could understand. After all, he was the reincarnation of a god king, and luck was really not much of a factor to him. His arrival here was already defying the heavens. Due to being reborn in this world with his full memories, his real opponent was the master of this plane. Not to mention Dubai and Appos' luck. Even the luck of the Celestial Fox Demon King probably couldn't and Appos affect him. Let an Appos go. I and Appos I'll take you. Cheng Ziqing waved to him and left. Tang San followed Cheng Ziqing out of Redemption Academy, retracing the path Zhang Haoshuan had previously led him on and heading toward the academy and Appos' small town. Where are we going to buy things? Tang San asked. Cheng Ziqing replied, we have everything here in our town when it comes to general daily stuff, but we have to go to the city if it and Appos something more special or expensive. But you Don and Appos need to go to the city, do you? In his heart, Tang San thought, hell yes, I want to go to the city. Even to the city center. I want to drink milk tea. Well, since I just arrived here, it and Appos better to familiarize myself with the surroundings first, not in a hurry to go to the city. He nodded in agreement. Cheng Ziqing said, Teacher Guan asked me to introduce you to our academy town. Our town has close to 2,000 households and 5,000 or 6,000 people. Among our human vassal groups, it and Appos pretty large. The people here are all vassals of the major clans of Kali City. The reason they gather here is mainly to serve Kali Academy. You know about this, right? Tang San replied, the mayor told me about this before. The town mainly provides various daily necessities for Kali Academy. Sometimes we also assist the demon students of Kali Academy in their cultivation. That and Appos why we have a special academy sparring team. Academy sparring team? What in Appos that? Tang San asked in surprise. Cheng Ziqing explained, as the name suggests, it an Appos a team we put together for sparring with those demons. We actually earn some money from sparring, which is good for the town. We also do many other services for the academy, and we are paid for everything. The whole academy town exists because of Kali Academy. ISN and Appos. Sparring dangerous? Tang San asked. Cheng Ziqing responded, there are always minor accidents, but that's about it. The students of Kali Academy don't really hate us, even though we're human vassals, and the fact that we spar with them also helps them get stronger. Tang San nodded. It sounds like you have a pretty good impression of Kali Academy? You and Appos. Find out for yourself in the future. Anyway, back to the topic. Our town is divided into several major parts. The sparring team is mainly composed of strong and able-bodied people. Then there and Appos the procurement team responsible for providing Kali Academy with daily necessities. They go around the city and purchase items to supply to the academy, and they pay us a fee for the delivery. Next is the herb collection team. Behind our town there's the Kali Mountain Range. It's a pretty big place, and because the climate is cold, there are a lot of natural treasures that kind of weather. The mountains are full of demons and all sorts of other dangers, so the herb gatherers have it the toughest, but they also get the most money. Whatever herbs they gather, they can sell to Kali Academy for a very high price. So, the people in our academy town are in principle split into the sparring, herb collection, and procurement teams. In the future, you can choose to join one of these groups. Choose? Why? Tang-san asked. Chang Zicheng replied, the rule in our town is that no one can laze around. Everyone must live by their labor. That applies to us even though we're still young. The academy doesn't really give us much. The expenses for food, drink, lodging, and travel must be earned by completing tasks. We do get some resources for cultivation, but if you want more, you must get them yourself. The teachers say this is also a form of training for us. So, in the future, you can join one of these 3 teams to earn some money for your living expenses and to cover the cultivation costs. Teacher Guan often says that becoming strong doesn't mean only cultivation. There are a lot of things to do if you want to get really strong, and the first thing you need is to be able to survive. The concept was nothing new, and Tang-san quite agreed with this statement. The demon continent differed in many aspects from the Douluo continent where he used to be, but on the Douluo continent, entering an academy also required money, and the resources students received within the academy also depended on completing tasks. The 2 places certainly had similarities, even if they operated on different methods. The Redemption Academy seems to be on the right track. I can lend you the money for buying daily necessities today. You can pay me back later when you have it. But it seems you Don and Appos, T need to work for now. You and Appos re not yet 12, right? Before you turn 12, the academy will provide your cultivation resources. But you and Appos, LLO the expenses which you can repay once you can work. Tang-san shook his head. No need to worry about that. I have some money. He did have some money, demon's hard coins made from wind spirit stones. He had earned 3 Etherhorn coins in the last collision contest, which he had lent to Wang Yanfeng and had been returned to him later. He had also obtained a small bag from the Wind Wolf Town Lord. He hadn't and Appos, T checked how much was in it yet, but considering it was from the town and Appos, Lord, it was unlikely to be little. So Tang-san wasn't and Appos, T short on money now. Chang Zicheng looked at him in surprise. Well, that and Appos, great then. While talking, they entered the small town. There was a street dedicated to various shops, mostly selling daily necessities. Tang-san noticed there were also places selling spiritual herbs. The store selling these herbs was the largest on the street and located near Mayor Zhang Haoshuan and Appos' residence, close to the town and Appos' center. This academy town, with a population of almost 6,000, was bustling. And now that he had time to look around, Tang-san noticed that there were not only humans in the town but also demons. These demons wore uniforms, all in a peacock green color, tailored to fit different body shapes. They looked quite beautiful. Even without Chang Zicheng and Appos' explanation, he knew these must be the demon students from Kali Academy. Among these students, Tang-san saw many demons he had never encountered before. Others see demons, but all I see is bloodline imprints. Having now broken through to the 5th order meant he could possess another bloodline imprint and a new ability. He understood the relationship between the mysterious heaven technique and demon bloodline power much better now. Therefore, the choice of his 5th ability had to be made carefully. He needed to find the one most suited to himself. Devouring several bloodline imprints was not a concern. First, he could replace his current imprinted abilities if he integrated a better one. Second, if the attributes were compatible, imprints could merge. However, advancing a hybrid imprint would definitely become more troublesome than elevating a single imprint. In addition, merging seemed like a double-edged sword. A good merge could enhance his original abilities, but he had a hunch that a bad one could have adverse effects. Tang-san wasn't and Appos, T2 worried about this, however. With his God King perspective and past life and Appos' cultivation experience, he could accurately judge which bloodlines were suitable for merging. The more significant issue was that elevating a merged imprint could become more complex. Enhancing an imprint by devouring just one type of bloodline pre-merger would be challenging. He had to devour multiple types while maintaining balance or consider merging other similar types of bloodline imprints. This would require Tang San to continue exploring on his own. Fortunately, the nature of the mysterious heaven technique allowed him to strip away any useless imprints, so even if the merging effect was not ideal, there was still room for error. Tang San was not in a hurry about this. As his power grew more substantial, the future would naturally offer plenty of opportunities to choose from different demon bloodlines. Under Chang Ziqing and Appo's expert guidance, Tang San used Demon's Heart coins made from wind spirit stones to purchase daily necessities. The prices were not high. Although Demon's Heart coins were the lowest currency, they still had some purchasing power. After buying the necessities, the two returned to the Redemption Academy. Thanks for today, Tang San said, handing Chang Ziqing a Demon's Heart coin. Chang Ziqing and Appo's expression changed. What are you doing? Tang San earnestly replied, I can and Appo's. Just waste your time for nothing. Chang Ziqing huffed. I am your senior after all. Do you think I am like Dubai? Saying this, she turned and walked away, clearly a little angry. Tang San couldn't and Appo's help but feel a mix of amusement and frustration. All along the way, Chang Ziqing had been lecturing him about equivalent exchange and self-reliance. That was why he had made his gesture, not expecting it to upset her. Indeed, the saying goes, a woman in Appo's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea, truly inscrutable. It was already evening. Chang Ziqing had mentioned before that meals at the academy were communal, with teachers and students dining together in a specific cafeteria. However, it wasn't Appo's tea time yet. He still had to wait a little longer. Tang San arranged the daily necessities he had bought, instantly adding a touch of liveliness to the room. Looking around his room, Tang San couldn't and Appo's help but feel a sense of strangeness. He didn't and Appo's know how long he would live here, but it seemed like a safe dwelling. Whether it was the Redemption Academy or Kali Academy, he still needed time to understand them. More importantly, he had to continue advancing to the Fifth Order was a huge move. Tang San had not yet fully assimilated the bloodline power of the Wind Wolf Lord. It would take at least a week to digest this pure energy fully. Once that was done, his mysterious heaven technique could start moving forward once more. Killing and devouring powerful demons was undoubtedly a shortcut to enhance his cultivation. However, his current strength was still too low, and the risk of exposure was high. If the Wind Wolf Town Lord hadn't Appo's been seriously injured that day and the circumstances hadn't aligned just right, Tang San might not have been able to defeat it at all, let alone do it in secret. That battle made Tang San realize his understanding of the demons was insufficient. He hoped that after entering the Redemption Academy, he could learn more knowledge here. His Wind Blade imprint had also unsurprisingly advanced to the Fifth Order, enhancing his perception of the wind element. Previously, facing Mayor Zhang Haoshuan, the gap in cultivation was too significant for him to display his abilities, but his combat power had increased significantly since facing the Wind Wolf Town Lord. The higher his cultivation, the better he could operate and use the abilities from his previous life in Appo's memories, many of which could also work just as well in this world. Eating time. Eating time. Just then a familiar voice came from outside, followed by a knock on the door. After his introspection, Tang San opened the door to find Dubai standing there. Their eyes met and Dubai, looking somewhat embarrassed, coughed and said, Didn't Appo's expect you to have such strong spiritual power? Tang San. We are brothers from now on. Tang San, unable to keep up with his erratic thought process, said helplessly, Are your eyes okay? Chang Ziqing said you needed some time to recover. Dubai, however, was quite nonchalant. No worries, no worries. The first time I looked at our teacher, it was worse than this. I thought I was going blind. My screaming earlier was a bit exaggerated, just to get more attention from the teacher. Let Appo's go. It Appo's time to eat. They say there Appo's something special today to welcome you. The mayor is also here. His eyes were dim, evidently from the impact of their earlier eye contact. They left the room, with Dubai leading the way to the cafeteria. While walking, he lowered his voice and asked Tang San, What ability have you been cultivating in your eyes? What was that purple color? It doesn't Appo's seem like a wind wolf transformation ability, right? It Appo's super cool. Tang San replied, it in Appos. One of my innate abilities. I think it must be a mutation of my wind wolf transformation. Oh, no wonder. Impressive, impressive. When I reach the fourth order, I and Appos. Try looking you in the eyes again. Dubai didn't in Appos, doubt him. Everyone in Appos. Abilities were diverse and unique in the Redemption Academy. An ordinary demonic god transformation wouldn't and Appos. Be enough to qualify an applicant to be here. The cafeteria was on the west side of the courtyard in a spacious wooden building. As they entered, a rich aroma immediately wafted toward them. Having been in this world for 9 years, Tang San had long since given up hope on its cuisine. Regardless of the ingredients, the cooking methods were basic, boiled or grilled, seasoned with simple salt. That was the extent of the culinary experience. The taste wasn't an Appos. Horrible, but it was far from amazing. It was passable when the ingredients were fresh, but most of the time, the flavor could be described as bland as chewing wax. However, when he entered the cafeteria today, his senses were refreshed. The rich aroma of food was tantalizing. Various dishes were laid out on the long table. Although the cooking methods didn't and Appos seem much improved, the smell was quite pleasing. Some ingredients were unfamiliar to Tang San, and at the center was a massive platter over a meter in diameter, displaying the well-cooked carcass of an unknown animal. This platter could be described as a colossal presence among the dishes, both in terms of sheer size and in terms of the aroma it emanated. What a massive chunk of meat! The most decadent fragrance Tang San had felt in years was emanating from this very platter. Dubai licked his lips and chuckled, what a treat! This is a low-level demonic beast called the Sky Rat. It and Appos. A flying rodent with rich, fatty meat that you can only find in our Kali mountain range. They're very hard to catch because they fly very fast and they're agile, so one of these can sell for 30 to 50 demons hard coins. It and Appos. Be great to have it once or twice a month. The meat of demon beasts has the effect of strengthening bloodlines. Even in Kali City, only the nobles can afford it. Demonic beast meat? Tang San had never tried it before. But when he heard that it was a rat, his appetite was somewhat quenched. At this moment, the teachers and students of the Redemption Society had all arrived in the cafeteria. As the newcomer, Tang San was naturally seated at the end of the table. Seeing the cooked sky rat, the student and Appos' eyes lit up. They were visibly eager for the demonic beast and Appos' meat. The mayor, Zhang Haoshuan, seated at the head of the table, waited until everyone was present, then said, today we welcome Tang San to our big family. From today on, he and Appos' one of us. I have officially taken him as my disciple. From now on, you all should treat each other like family. Practice together, progress together. Hearing Zhang Haoshuan had taken Tang San as his personal disciple, the students and teachers couldn't and Appos' help but show their surprise. Siru, who always had a smiling face, showed a clear look of astonishment in his eyes. He was particularly perplexed by Zhang Haoshuan's decision. He turned to look at Zhang Haoshuan, who stood up and ignored his gaze. The mayor walked over to the boiled sky rat, tore off a leg, and then went to Tang San and put it on his plate. Tang San and Appos' mouth twitched, thinking to himself, teacher, oh teacher, can I just not eat this? But he couldn't and Appos' just refused Zhang Haoshuan and Appos' gesture in front of so many people. He could only steel himself and say, thank you, teacher. Everyone, let's eat, said Zhang Haoshuan, and the students, with no hint of restraint, sprang into action almost instantly. As the dinner started, Tang San understood why Zhang Haoshuan had taken the initiative to give him a leg of the sky rat. 3 seconds, really just 3 seconds, and the enormous platter was empty. Their movements were so fast that Tang San felt dizzy, and the boiled sky rat simply vanished. The teachers didn't and Appos' even touch it, simply eating the other dishes. The sky rat was entirely left for the students. The teachers were accustomed to this. Dubai and Appos' voice reached Tang San and Appos' ears, hurry up and eat. The quick get the most, the slow get none. Tang San quickly understood and didn't and Appos' dare to delay eating rapidly. He wasn't an Appos' picky about food. He gritted his teeth, ate the rat leg first, and then moved on to the other dishes. Since the other students were busy dealing with the sky rat they had grabbed, No one competed with him for the other foods. The meat of the sky rat was chewy without any off-putting smell, and had a unique fragrance, which, if Tang San braved through the psychological factor, was actually pretty acceptable. As he ate it, he felt warmth spread throughout his body. Dubai was right about the nourishing effects of demon beast meat on the bloodlines. No one spoke during the dinner. It was silent from beginning to end. Only clean, empty plates remained on the table when the last bit of food was gone. Tang San also ate quite a bit. This was without a doubt the best meal he had since arriving in this world. Although the taste was still not quite there, the ingredients were good. Both the meat and the vegetables were fresh and high quality. After the teachers finished eating, they left one after another, followed by the students. There was little interaction. Everyone headed back to their own quarters. Dubai also left immediately after eating, telling Tang San he was returning to cultivate. The sky had completely darkened when Tang San stepped out of the cafeteria. The yard was quiet, and many lights were lit in the houses surrounding the yard, creating a peaceful yet lively atmosphere. He took a long breath and then walked back to his place, East 3. The moment he reached the door, he sensed a presence inside. When he opened it, he found Zhang Haoshuan sitting in the living room, looking at him. "Teacher." Tang San hurriedly approached to pay his respects. Zhang Haoshuan smiled faintly and said, "Sit down and we and Oppos, LL talk." Tang San sat down on a chair opposite him. "Are you adapting well?" Tang San nodded. "I and Oppos am just starting to adapt. It and Oppos is nice here." Zhang Haoshuan said, "Do you know how long it took us to make this place what it is now?" Tang San was momentarily taken aback and then shook his head. "Over 300 years. Over 300 years. Zhang Haoshuan sighed softly and said, "The accumulation of vassals, the demon race and Oppos' recognition and gradual dependence on our abilities, the establishment and growth of the Academy town, step by step, leading to the formation of the Redemption Academy. It has taken us over 300 years. To be precise, the birth of the Redemption Society also dates back over 300 years. This place can be considered one of the rare sanctuaries for humanity. If the entire continent could have such places, our people would no longer suffer. How wonderful that would be." Tang San nodded silently. "Starting tomorrow, you will formally begin your studies at the academy. I came to remind you that here, the first thing you need to gain is the recognition of your teachers and classmates. This recognition is not about how well you handle social interactions but about strength. In our Redemption Academy, strength is the foundation of everything. I and Oppos V observed that you have a stable temperament, so I and Oppos am not worried about that. But strength is the foundation on which you and Oppos LL stand. You may reveal your fifth order cultivation when necessary, but as I already told you, you must keep the mysterious heaven technique a secret." "Yes," Tang San responded. Zhang Haoshuan stood up. "It and Oppos it's been a long journey and you will be starting classes tomorrow, so rest early tonight." As he spoke, he walked out, and Tang San stood to see him off. When Zhang Haoshuan reached the door, he suddenly paused, turned to Tang San, patted his head and said, "There and Oppos. One more rule in our Redemption Academy. You can only acknowledge one true teacher. Understand?" After saying this, he patted Tang San and Oppos' shoulder again, and with a flash of light, his tall figure vanished into thin air. "Acknowledge only one teacher?" Tang San pondered, wondering what Zhang Haoshuan was hinting at. He closed the door, then proceeded to wash himself and went to bed. Instead of starting to meditate and cultivate immediately, however, he took out a small pouch from his bosom. The pouch was made from a type of leather he couldn't and Oppos identify. It was brownish yellow, palm-sized, and unremarkable in appearance. He had acquired this pouch after killing Feng Xiong, the Wind Wolf Town Lord. He had then met up immediately with Xianxia Shao, and the two of them had traveled together to Kali City. Being with Xianxia Shao the entire journey, he naturally hadn't an Oppos had time to examine it. Now that he was settled here, he took out the pouch to see his gains. This pouch was his only possession at the time of Feng Xiong and Oppos' death. Given that Feng Xiong was fleeing in panic, it had to be more than a little valuable. No matter how small Wind Wolf Town was, Feng Xiong had been its lord for many years. More importantly, when Tang San devoured his bloodline power, he noticed it was markedly different from that of ordinary wind wolves. It was much more potent. Devouring it provided more energy than all the wolf demons he had consumed before combined. This naturally astonished Tang San. Previously, Tang San hadn't opposed. He had time to think deeply about it, but now reflecting on it, the Wind Wolf Town Lord Feng Xiong seemed to have some kind of extraordinary origin. Of course, the likelihood of finding something valuable among his personal belongings was fairly high. The yellow pouch felt light as a feather, but it had a matte texture when touched. When Tang San activated his discerning eye, his heart gave a jolt. As he carefully inspected the pouch with the discerning eye, he immediately noticed a subtle spatial fluctuation, as if something was hidden inside. He knew all too well what spatial fluctuations meant. Could this be a spatial treasure used for storage, much like the mythical concept of Mount Meru fitting inside a mustard seed? If that's the case, then I truly stumbled upon a treasure. Items with spatial attributes were extremely precious even in his previous life. Of course, after he became a god-level entity, it wasn't important anymore as he could create spaces himself. However, this was the first time he had encountered such an item in the demon continent. Moreover, if this pouch was indeed a spatial treasure, it could contain much more than its size would suggest. While pondering, Tang San tried to open the small pouch, simultaneously extending his spiritual power into it to explore its contents. When Tang San and Appo's spiritual power touched the originally brownish-yellow pouch, it emitted a faint blue light. He could vaguely sense a force of resistance within that blocked his probe into the pouch. This barrier did not give off any massive power fluctuations, but it was incredibly resilient, easily keeping his spiritual power at bay. Tang San didn't let this discourage him, and neither did he try to force it. Instead, he activated his Wind Wolf bloodline imprint, and a faint green light also emanated from his body. As expected, when he activated the Wind Wolf imprint, the barrier hesitated momentarily and then quietly dissipated. The most potent force within Tang San and Appo's Wind Wolf imprint was now the bloodline power of Feng Xiong. After all, Feng Xiong and Appo's bloodline was much more concentrated than all the wind wolves he had devoured previously. This also proved that this unassuming little pouch was an item that had already recognized an owner. And to be able to recognize a master meant it possessed some level of spiritual intelligence. As his spiritual power probed inside, the next moment Tang San and Appo's face was filled with joy. Inside the pouch there was a misty green space. Moreover, the internal space was not small, stretching about 3 meters in diameter. This was quite remarkable for a spatial treasure. The primary issue with such spatial treasures used for storage was maintaining a stable space. The larger the stable volume, the more difficult it is to maintain. The leather exterior of the pouch was likely made from the hide of a spatial-type demon beast, though Tang San was unsure of the specific processes involved. However, the fact that it had such a large and stable internal space made it a rare treasure. Inside the pouch was something quite simple. Nothing but currency. What caught Tang San and Appo's attention most was the most conspicuous items in the pouch, which emitted a misty blue glow and a rich fluctuation of wind element. Although Tang San saw this type of currency for the first time, he could discern from the strong wind element fluctuations that these were the third-ranking coins in the demon race currency system, Naturi coins. Specifically, these were wind Naturi coins, which made sense considering the previous owner belonged to the wind wolf lineage. Within this small pouch, there were hundreds of wind Naturi coins. This was an incredible fortune. In addition, there were numerous wind spirit stones. These stones were exceptionally clear and transparent, clearly different from the wind spirit stones Tang San had seen before. He was unsure of their exact value, but he had no doubt that they were very valuable. 1. This is a common phrase in cultivation novels, and it originates in the Vimalakirti Sutra, a Buddhist scripture. Mount Sumeru or Meru is said to be millions of kilometers tall, while a mustard seed is one of the smallest seeds. The scripture says that Mount Sumeru can hide a mustard seed, while a mustard seed can contain Mount Meru. It signifies that even something seemingly insignificant can contain infinite possibilities. Tang San stirred the contents with his spiritual energy, uncovering a pleasant surprise. 3 coins shimmering with 6-color radiance were hidden among the pile of wind Naturi coins. Similar in size to the Naturi coins, these were crafted by piecing together 6 different materials. Each of these materials had completely different properties, and yet they were combined in such a way as to complement each other, resulting in a stable energy fluctuation. This had to be the Empyrean coin, a level higher than the Naturi coins. To put it into perspective, one Empyrean coin was equivalent to 100 Naturi coins. Tang San gaped at this discovery. All demon currency had intrinsic value, in that they could be used for cultivation. This was where their value lay, not in some kind of economic agreement between the races. Every high-level coin was, in other words, a treasure in and of itself. After inspecting the pouch and Appo's contents, Tang San and Appo's first thought was that he was now rich. The benefits of defeating the Wind Wolf Lord were far greater than he had imagined. The rich Wind Wolf bloodline and what was likely the majority of Wind Wolf Town and Appo's wealth accumulated over the years were now in his possession. However, what mattered most wasn't Appo's the wealth or the bloodline energy, but the spatial storage pouch he was holding. This little pouch was incredibly convenient. With 27 cubic meters of space, it could store numerous items, and it would make a lot of things far easier for Tang San in the future. Compared to the wealth it contained, he actually valued this spatial storage pouch even more. Tang San tightened the pouch in Appo's opening, causing the spatial fluctuations to dissipate and the pouch to look like a normal pouch once more. He let out a long sigh of relief. Originally possessing 3 Etherhorn coins, he felt he was somewhat wealthy, but now he considered himself akin to a small tycoon. In a place like Cali City, as long as one had money, there was no shortage of cultivation resources. With this capital, he needed to consider how to quickly convert these resources into his own strength. Enhancing his power was the most important thing, at least so far. His impression of the Redemption Society was quite good. It was probably the best platform for humans to exist on the demon continent. Moreover, most importantly, it was very close to Mei Gongzi. Once he settled down, he could see her. The mere thought of Mei Gongzi warmed Tang San and Appo's heart instantly, brightening his eyes. He calmed his mind and sat cross-legged, silently entering the mysterious heaven technique cultivation state, continuing to digest and absorb the bloodline power of the Wind Wolf Lord. His Wind Wolf bloodline imprint absorbed the Wind Wolf Lord and Appo's bloodline power effortlessly. Tang San could clearly feel that upon entering the 5th order, the Wind Wolf bloodline imprint was beginning to change. This difference was not merely due to the change in order. A significant part was likely due to the pure and profound bloodline power of the Wind Wolf Lord. His Wind Wolf bloodline imprint had now become lush and crystal clear, and as he looked at it, he felt as if the imprint contained a giant wolf howling at the moon. With the enhancement of the Wind Wolf bloodline imprint, Tang San and Appo's perception and control over the wind element greatly strengthened when he activated it. His mysterious heaven technique was also improving at an astonishing rate as he absorbed this bloodline power. Theoretically, the bloodline of the Wind Wolf Lord had to be much more powerful than that of an ordinary wind wolf. Wang Yanfeng had told him that among the demon races, the stronger the demon, the purer its bloodline and the closer it was to the level of its ancestors. Therefore, in demon races, the strongest were invariably the royal families, as their bloodline was passed down directly from their mighty ancestors. Naturally, they placed great importance on the purity of their bloodline. By contrast, even if humans inherited the demonic god transformation, they actually could not cultivate it to the same level as demons with the same bloodline due to the presence of human blood. However, the offspring of humans with a demonic god transformation and more powerful demons commonly had a more powerful demonic god transformation. The bloodline of the Wind Wolf Lord had to be extraordinary among the Wind Wolf clan. Tang San wondered why such a powerful being ruled over such a backwoods place as Wind Wolf Town. He could feel that the strength of the Wind Wolf and Appo's bloodline was incredibly close to the 6th order. In addition, when the Wind Wolf Lord died, Tang San could feel a strange energy within it suddenly disappear, vanishing along with its life. Due to the urgency he had in Appo's, T had the chance to think deeply about it at the time. Now, these changes seemed likely related to the pure bloodline that Feng Xiong had. He hoped the death of the Wind Wolf Lord Wuden and Appo's caused trouble for Teacher Wang and the others. Their Shuden and Appo's be too big of a problem though, right? After all, the Wind Wolf clan will probably blame the Flash Leopard clan for this incident. Wherein and Oppos, the Flash Leopards attacking on a large scale at that time? If the Wind Wolf Lord and Oppos' identity was indeed as extraordinary as Tang San assumed, this incident could end up provoking a dispute between the two clans. There's nothing wrong with that. Let them fight among themselves. As his thoughts became clearer, Tang San gradually entered a meditative state. Faint blue light swirled around him, the bloodline power of the Wind Wolf Lord transforming bit by bit into his own strength. The night passed without incident. As the distant sky began to brighten in the early morning, Tang San woke from his meditation. He opened the window, waiting for the purple energy of dawn while taking out the spatial storage pouch. Technically, this pouch was still bound to the Wind Wolf Lord. Although he could use it now due to the presence of the Wind Wolf Lord and Oppos' bloodline aura, whether he could continue using it after completely absorbing it was another matter. Therefore, he had to erase the mark of the Wind Wolf Lord on it. This required a strong mental force, and in the morning when he cultivated the purple demon eyes, his mental strength was at its peak. On the eastern horizon a pale white appeared, and Tang San and Oppos' eyes turned purple. His solid mental power, accompanied by the aura of his Wind Wolf transformation, silently penetrated the spatial storage pouch. Soon Tang San found the spiritual imprint inside. His experience with the spatial element in his previous life meant he didn't and Oppos' take long to understand it. A flash of green light and the original imprint was undone. Tang San then imprinted energy from the mysterious heaven technique onto it, resealing it and leaving a strand of his mental power within. This way he could retrieve anything he wanted from the pouch with just a thought. As the sun rose, a smile appeared on Tang San and Oppos' face. What a wonderful start to the day. He secured the spatial storage pouch close to his body, stretched, and after freshening up, left his room. Although Cali City was located in the north, the temperature inside the city and in its surroundings was actually much higher than elsewhere. As the city was located in the space between two mountains, the climate was milder and from what Tang San heard, it felt like spring year-round. It was a very comfortable place to live. Looking down halfway up the mountain, he could clearly see the smoke rising from the stoves of the academy town. The Cali Academy in the distance had a somewhat hazy appearance. That wasn't an Oppos' fog but rather seemed like some kind of concealing formation. This sense of mystery made Tang San want to investigate. Cheng Zicheng had mentioned yesterday that he could join the sparring teams to earn an income. These teams could enter Cali Academy. Perhaps he could try that in the future. You and Oppos, re-up. A familiar voice rang out, and as Tang San turned, he saw Dubai approaching him. Compared to yesterday, Dubai and Oppos' eyes looked a bit red today, perhaps from a night of healing cultivation. Good morning, senior brother Du. Tang San greeted him with a smile. Hearing Tang San call him senior brother Bai, Dubai and Oppos' eyes lit up. Before Tang San and Oppos' arrival, he was the youngest here, only 11 years old. He was used to calling others senior brother and senior sister all the time. He hadn't and Oppos' expected to have a junior brother himself this time. We and Oppos' all family here, just call me senior brother and Oppos, Dubai said with a grin. Alright, senior brother. Tang San responded amicably. Let and Oppos' go, time for breakfast. Dubai led Tang San into the cafeteria. The breakfast was plentiful. Though it lacked delicacies like demonic beast meat, there was an ample supply of meat, eggs, and staple foods. The meals were much better than what he had in Wind Wolf Town. Apart from them, some other students were already having breakfast. Dubai introduced Tang San to them, helping him get acquainted. With Tang San and Oppos' memory, he had already remembered the names of these dozen senior brothers and sisters, with Dubai and Cheng Zicheng being the most familiar. I and Oppos' I'll take you to class later. This morning we have physical training with Teacher Yu. You better be mentally prepared. Teacher Yu is. Dubai was interrupted by a voice coming from the cafeteria entrance. Wow, Dubai. Talking behind Teacher Yu and Oppos' back, you and Oppos, redone for. He. Tang San looked toward the source of the voice and saw that it was Cheng Zicheng speaking, her face full of smiles. I didn't and Oppos' say anything. You must have heard wrong. I was just saying Teacher Yu is the most beautiful woman in our academy town, Dubai quickly corrected himself. Chang Ziqing looked at Dubai, sat beside them and said to Tang San, Don and Oppos. T listened to his nonsense. Although Teacher Yu is strict in teaching, it and Oppos. S all for our own good. However, you and Oppos. LL need to eat more for the physical training class this morning, or else you might be unable to keep up. I and Oppos. LL go get some food. With that, she stood up to get some food. What about the afternoon? Tang San inquired. In the afternoon we have a practical combat class with Teacher Mu, Dubai replied. Tang San vaguely understood that when Dubai referred to Teacher Yu, he meant Mu Yunyu, and Teacher Mu was Mu Enqing. He noted these names. Is it every day? Tang San asked. Most of the time, yes. Sometimes Teacher Guan gives us lectures. Those days are generally for rest without physical training. Then there and Oppos. Teacher Siru who has a class once a week, or rather, a session to help us enhance our cultivation. You and Oppos. I'll understand when you attend. The mayor checks on us about once a month. Those who do well get praised, those who don't get scolded. The one who improves the most each time gets a reward, but I and Oppos, who never received it, Dubai explained, a bit disheartened by the end. By this point, Chang Ziqing had returned with breakfast. You and Oppos redoing all right. At least you and Oppos. You've never been punished. The teachers are lenient with you. They all say your demonic god transformation is difficult to cultivate and moves on slowly. So even if you and Oppos relast, you one and Oppos to be punished. It and Oppos s unfair. Dubai and Oppos s celestial fox transformation seemed indeed difficult to improve. Tang San could discern the cultivation levels of some students from the bloodline aura emanating from their bodies. For instance, Dubai was at the 3rd order, and Chang Ziqing around the 4th. Both were young, around 11 or 12 years old. The strength of the other senior brothers and sisters varied, but some were at a level even Tang San Kuden and Oppos precisely determine, definitely above the 6th order. As she ate, Chang Ziqing turned to Tang San and said, You should be careful in this afternoon and Oppos' practical combat class. Since you and Oppos new here, Teacher Mu will definitely want you to showcase your abilities. Maybe I and Oppos LL end up being your opponent. Thank you for the heads up, senior sister, Tang San responded earnestly. With a hand on Tang San and Oppos' shoulder, Dubai said to Chang Ziqing, Little Orange, if you and Oppos going to spar with our junior brother today, be careful not to hurt him. Chang Ziqing raised an eyebrow. Since when can you call me Little Orange? Maybe I'll let you call me that when you can get through a round with me and still look like a human being. Dubai and Oppos' mouth twitched slightly. He Kuden and Oppos beat anyone here when it came to combat strength. It and Oppos like you dare to hit me, he said. Aren't and Oppos you afraid of bad luck? His rebuttal didn't and Oppos anger Chang Ziqing, and she instead looked curiously at Tang San. Tang San, did anything happen to you after that backlash you caused him yesterday? No changes. Should there be any change? Tang San asked curiously. Dubai also looked at him with curiosity. I am a child of fortune. If my celestial fox vision is cultivated to a high enough level, it can even see the future. Anyone who is my enemy or hurts me will be hit by bad luck. Haven and Oppos. You felt it? Tang San silently shook his head, thinking, I am a god king with divine consciousness. It would be strange if your little bit of fortune backlash could affect me. Dubai scratched his head. It didn't and Oppos work? That and Oppos strange. I need to break through and I need to work harder. Teacher Guan said that my celestial fox vision will have some practical abilities once I reach the 4th order. Fi and Oppos, I'll be powerful then. Chang Ziqing rolled her eyes and continued eating her breakfast. After breakfast, they assembled in the courtyard. Including Tang San, there were 16 students at the Redemption Society. Tang San, similar in stature to Dubai, was among the shortest in the academy. The two of them stood at the edge of the group. Mu Yunyu, whom they hadn't an Oppos seen in the cafeteria, slowly approached and stood before everyone. Tang San noticed that with her arrival, all the students instinctively straightened up. Mu Yunyu smiled and said, Today we continue with physical training. We have a new member joining us today, Tang San. You and Appo's re 9 years old, right? Yes, teacher Yu, Tang San immediately responded. Your training intensity will be the same as Dubai and Appo's. The goal is Tianpeng. Get your weighted gear and let and Appo's set off, Mu Yunyu stated calmly. Upon hearing the word Tianpeng, the faces of all the students turned sour, but no one dared to complain. They immediately headed toward a building on the side. Entering the room, Tang San understood what weighted gear meant. On the walls hung items resembling leather vests, each with dozens of pockets. Each person chose a vest according to their size and then walked over to a table nearby, inserting the metal bars from the table into the pockets of their vests. When Dubai helped Tang San select a fitted vest, they approached the metal bars. Dubai whispered to Tang San, each bar weighs 10 kilograms. You and I have the same standard, so that and Appo's S4 bars. Tang San noticed that a senior disciple had at least 20 metal bars inserted in his vest. Wooden and Appo's. That mean carrying a weight of 200 kilograms? That and Appo's terrifying. Where is Tianpeng? Tang San picked up 4 metal bars, inserting them in the front and back of his vest to maintain balance. With 40 kilograms on him, he felt his body slightly heavy, but with his current cultivation level, it was certainly not a big deal. Dubai smiled wryly. Tianpeng is in the mountains about 100 kilometers from here. It's a really difficult trek. There are peaks, cliffs, valleys, and all that. Also, no special powers allowed. Our bloodline abilities will be sealed and we can only go there using our normal human bodies. We cannot use the demonic god transformation. Wow, that harsh. Tang San was immediately startled. After all, the physical strength of humans Kuden and Appo's compare with that of the demons. It was not an easy task for mere children to carry so much weight while climbing mountains with the power of the demonic god transformation sealed. That and Appo's how harsh it is. Teacher, you will follow the entire way. The worst part is the last 3 to return. 1 and Appo's get any food. Let and Appo's go quickly. Everyone is in a fair competition. Since we're younger and smaller, we get less weight to carry, but that's all. The 2 left the room to find Mu Yunyu waiting outside. She approached them and put her hands on them, and Tang San immediately felt a strange force entering his body. The next moment, the energy in his dantian seemed to have solidified. A cool sensation lingered in his chest and abdomen, yet he could not mobilize any energy. His mind stirred slightly, and he immediately felt that it was possible to mobilize his energy and break through the seal forcibly with his current cultivation level. However, without a doubt, if he did so, Mu Yunyu would sense it immediately. This made him recall his training in his past life when he also did similar physical endurance trials with his companions. Without the aid of the mysterious heaven technique, he could only rely on his physical strength. Tang San was small and slender, skinny even. This was actually due to him deliberately controlling his physical development using the mysterious heaven technique. Even though he was eating fairly well and training a lot, he had to avoid standing out too much, especially in Windwolf Town. However, after arriving at the Redemption Society, his safety was assured, so he no longer planned to suppress his physical development, especially with Mei Gongzi in Kali City. He knew his wife Wooden and Appo's have any memories of their past life. In this life, if he wanted to win her heart again, he would have to pursue her anew. This was not an easy task, especially since Mei Gongzi was so beautiful and he was so ordinary. He needed to develop well first, at least to look more attractive. Dubai beckoned Tang San over and stepped out along with the other senior brothers and sisters, following the path behind the Redemption Society and entering the mountain forest. The back mountain was and Appo's too steep, but progressing with the added weight was still not something normal children could do. With that said, although Tang San had suppressed his physical growth, his actual strength was in fact quite high. Naturally, having once been a god king, he understood the importance of physical strength. The higher one's cultivation, the stronger a body was required to sustain it. The body was the vessel of energy. The bigger and tougher it was, the more it could hold. The mysterious heaven technique was particularly good at tempering the body, so although he was rather slender, his strength completely belied his size. The senior brothers and sisters walking ahead carried heavier weights but still looked agile and moved quickly along the back mountain. This back mountain was about 1,000 meters high, and the climb from the Redemption Society was nearly 700 meters. Fortunately, the terrain was relatively gentle and not too difficult to climb. The last 3 to return would go without food, and they had to return before noon. That was the requirement for the physical training class. Besides this outdoor training, what else do you do in the physical training class? Tang San asked Dubai, who was beside him. Dubai nodded but did not speak. What other methods are there? Tang San was still curious. Dubai smiled wryly. Don and Appo's tea talk. Conserve your strength. You and Appo's. I'll find it tough in a bit. Tang San also smiled slightly. Okay, let and Appo's go. When they had climbed over the first mountain, Dubai and Appo's forehead was already slightly sweaty. However, he was surprised to see that Tang San showed no signs of strain, even though the latter was smaller than him and was participating in the physical training for the first time. At this point, the differences in physical endurance among everyone were not yet apparent, and the weight they carried varied based on their own weight. Thus, everyone was essentially moving forward together. Descending the mountain was no easier than climbing up due to their additional weight. The downhill path was rather steep, and it required careful control of their posture and strength. A single misstep could lead to a fall. Although Tang San did not see the figure of Mu Yunyu, he could faintly sense that the teacher was nearby, following them. Moreover, it was likely that the teacher and Appo's focus was on him, the newcomer. The path became relatively flat after descending the first mountain and along the mountain hollow. The thorns and grass on the road were trampled flat, indicating it was a frequently traveled route. Those at the front began to speed up, and thanks to the burden of their weights, panting sounds soon emerged from within the group. Tang San and Dubai were still at the back of the team, with Dubai clenching his teeth and maintaining a steady pace to minimize his physical exhaustion. Tang San followed beside him. The 40-kilogram weight was not too much of a challenge for him right now. As they began to ascend the second mountain, the differences started to become evident. Some senior brothers and sisters at the front began to accelerate, while the sweat on Dubai and Appo's forehead just kept accumulating. However, Tang San did not speed up, merely following beside him silently. Whenever Dubai glanced at him, he noticed that although Tang San was moving at the same pace, he seemed noticeably less fatigued, and he'd hardly sweat at all. By the time they reached the peak of the second mountain, Dubai and Appo's breathing had become noticeably unsteady. If you can go ahead without me, Dubai said. Tang San shook his head. I and Appo's am just barely keeping up with you. How are you doing? Dubai smiled wryly. Every physical training class is an excruciating ordeal for me. Thankfully, I Don and Appo's need to participate in the practical combat classes. I and Appo's LL rest once we return in the afternoon. But if you keep following me, you might miss dinner. That one and Appo's tea happen. Let and Appo's push through together. Give me some of your weight. Dubai immediately said, no need, I can manage alone. Although teacher you and Appo's requirements are high, they are for our good, and we all know it. No matter how tough it gets, we can and Appo's cut corners. Tang San looked at him in surprise, gaining a newfound respect for his junior brother. At the first meeting, Dubai seemed somewhat eccentric, but to Tang San and Appo's surprise, he showed considerable perseverance in training and learning. Then let and Appo's both keep going, Tang San encouraged him. As they continued on their way, Dubai and Appo's physical exertion was evident, while Tang San still managed to keep up. The figures of those ahead gradually disappeared, leaving them at the back. 100 kilometers of mountainous terrain and flat land were entirely different concepts, especially with their special abilities sealed. Dubai and Appo's stamina had declined severely by the time they reached the fourth mountain. Go on without me, Dubai said somewhat helplessly. Honestly, I usually Don and Appo's get back until the evening. If you and Appo's physically able, I and Appo's I'll tell you the way. Tang San pondered momentarily and said, let me carry you along. Dubai still shook his head. No, I must rely on my own strength. It was at this moment that a pleasant voice sounded. He's right, you Don and Appo's need to bother about him. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of your physical training. Tang San and Dubai saw a blur before their eyes, and the next instant, Mu Yunyu had already appeared before them without a sound. She flicked her wrist and 2 shadows flew toward Tang San. Tang San instinctively reached out to catch them, realizing they were 2 weights. Here's 2 more weights for you. Go ahead on your own. Here and Appo's SA map. She tossed a rolled-up map to him. Tang San silently put the weights in the pockets of his own vest, then looked at Dubai, who waved at him. See you at the academy then. Tang San bowed to Mu Yunyu, got up again and quickly climbed the mountain. Watching his noticeably faster and agile figure, Dubai opened his mouth and Kuden and Appo's T helped saying everyone seems to be about the same size. How does he have so much stamina? Mu Yunyu said irritably because he has a stronger foundation. Get up quickly unless you want to be whipped. As she spoke, she somehow produced a whip and swung it in the air with a cracking sound. No teacher you I and Appo's am going. Dubai struggled to his feet and continued forward laboriously. No longer following Dubai, Tang San accelerated his pace. The 60 kilograms of weight on him were not too burdensome, especially since he had been conserving his energy while moving slowly with Dubai. Now he rapidly moved forward with long strides. As his physical energy was consumed, his body began to heat up, and his breathing grew heavier. The circulation of blood in his body, the stimulation to his physique, and the mental strain that came together with the depletion of his stamina brought him a strange sense of pleasure, like a thorough and satisfying venting. His speed increased even more. Occasionally, he glanced at the map, then at the sky to determine his location. Then he continued to move forward rapidly. However, as it turned out, his time with Dubai had put him not just at the back of the pack, but quite far behind it as well. It wasn't until he neared the destination that he finally saw Changzicheng. Tianpeng was the summit of a great mountain nearly 2,000 meters high, and it was their destination for this hiking trip. The reason it was named Tianpeng became clear to Tang San upon his arrival. A large tree with a canopy nearly 100 meters in diameter covered most of the peak. 1. Seeing Tang San climbing the mountain, Chang Zicheng, Kuden and Appo's T helped but be surprised, and she laughed. Pretty good endurance. I thought I and Appo's D see you again on the way back. Mu Wenqing was also there with her. Seeing Tang San approach, he nodded at him. Without a word, he patted Tang San on the shoulder. Immediately, the power left inside him by Mu Yunyu vanished, and Tang San could feel that the mysterious heaven technique was no longer suppressed. Tang San had wondered how people could return before noon with the weights and their abilities sealed. Now, it seemed that the restriction would be lifted upon reaching Tianpeng. Let and Appo's go. Hurry back and see if we can still get food, Chang Zicheng said, pulling Tang San and showing him the way down the mountain. As she leaped down from the mountaintop, an extraordinary scene unfolded. A layer of orange-yellow light shone around Chang Zicheng. In the next instant, she spread her arms and beautiful orange feathers sprouted from them. Her hair also turned orange, and it was decorated with 3 feathers. Flapping her arms, which had now transformed into wings, she glanced back at Tang San and smiled sweetly. I and Appo's LL go ahead. With these words, she glided down the mountain, quickly becoming a tiny in the distance. Fly. Did she fly away? Iasin and Appo's T that cheating? Tang San opened his mouth, unsure of what to say. What kind of demonic god transformation was that? Orange feathers and the ability to fly? Tang San had never seen such a demon. But from the change in aura after her transformation, Tang San could feel it was a powerful demonic god transformation. Moreover, the ability to fly was extremely rare. Senior sister, I and Appo's LL choose you if my 5th bloodline imprint doesn't and Appo's T work out. Flight was actually one of the abilities Tang San desired the most. Tang San took a deep breath. A swirling green light surrounded him, and he also suddenly leaped from the mountaintop. His eyes sparkled with discerning eye as the abundant wind element of the mountain converged around him. Feeling lighter, Tang San rapidly descended the mountain. Under the enhancement of the wind element, his speed was akin to a swift breeze. Although not as fast as Chang Zicheng and Appo's actual flight, it was still considerably quick. As he watched Tang San leave, Mu Wenqing and Appo's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Upon reaching this point by sheer physical effort, any student would be exhausted. Unsealing them at this moment to regain control of their power helped them appreciate the preciousness of the demonic god transformation and better understand their bloodline power on the way back. This was a crucial reason for the grueling program they were enduring. With that said, when he spotted Tang San running toward them, Muanqing felt that although the child was somewhat tired, it wasn't Apos. Severe, especially considering he was only 9 years old. And now when he left, it was clear that his body didn't Apos. Undergo any changes due to activating the demonic god transformation, and yet his control over the wind element was powerful, seemingly surpassing the fourth order. Initially, when the teachers learned that Tang San and Apos' ability was the wind wolf transformation, they weren't and Apos. Too impressed with him. If not for the fact that Tang San was only 9, they might not have allowed a child with such an average demonic god transformation to join the Redemption Academy. Although Redemption Academy was small, with only a dozen students, it held a very high status within the Redemption Society. It existed specifically to train elite upper echelon talent for the society. Across the entire Demon Continent, there were only 9 Redemption Academies, all managed by the core members of the Redemption Society. At this moment, when Muanqing saw Tang San using the Wind Wolf transformation, controlling the wind element to enhance his speed, his perception changed somewhat. Based on his information, Tang San and Apos' control over Windblade was exceptionally skillful. His spiritual energy had to be far above the ordinary, which was also evident from his ability to cause Dubai and Apos' celestial fox vision to backfire. Celestial fox vision made Dubai and Apos' spiritual energy much more substantial than that of others at the same order, and for Tang San to cause it to backfire, his spiritual energy had to be at least double Dubai and Apos'. This was indeed intriguing. The aspect that made the teachers most interested in Tang San was the fact that the mayor had taken him as a disciple. They were pretty familiar with the mayor and his quirks. For lunch, Tang San sprinted all the way. He now had a deeper understanding of the physical training class. The journey there was a physical fitness test, while the return was more about one and Apos' special abilities. This wasn't an Apos' exactly fair, but it was an interesting form of training. Now, his bloodline power felt intensely hot, and the soreness in his muscles was very noticeable. Once the mysterious heaven technique was unsealed, its perpetual cycling nature within the body facilitated a rapid recovery from the previous exertion, benefiting his physical training significantly, especially since he had just broken through to the 5th order. His body needed to adapt to the 5th level of the mysterious heaven technique as well. Today and Apos' physical training accelerated this process, and even the speed at which he absorbed the remaining bloodline energy he had from the Wind Wolf Town Lord. While they all moved along the same path all the way to Tianpeng, the return was bound to be different. Chang Zicheng, who could fly, would certainly take a different route from Tang San, who ran on the ground like a wolf. Thus, Tang San didn't and Apos' encounter anyone else on his way back. Well, that was also because everyone except Dubai had already arrived by the time he returned to the academy. Soaked with sweat and breathing heavily, Tang San pulled the weighted blocks from his vest, feeling helpless, realizing he might not get to eat today. He might have had a chance if he hadn't and Apos' stayed behind with Dubai earlier, but this made it clear that none of his fellow disciples at the academy could be taken lightly. On his way back, leveraging his 5th order cultivation and the speed boost from the wind element, he was pretty fast, nearly reaching 80% of his peak speed. Yet he still couldn't and Apos' compensate for the distance he and Apos' fallen behind, much less surpass the others. The other students at Redemption Academy were also somewhat surprised to see Tang San return so quickly. After all, he was only 9 years old. Mu Yunyu hadn't and Apos' returned, and just as Tang San was about to silently return to his room to wash up and endure hunger, Guanlongjiang approached him. It and Apos' your first training day, so you won an Apos' be punished today. Go wash up and then join everyone for a meal. Okay, thank you, teacher. Tang San didn't and Apos' hesitate or stubbornly refuse. He really didn't feel the need to show off his manly principles or whatever. He simply agreed amicably and then ran back to wash up. Just then, the composed Siru strolled over to Guanlongjiang. Hey, what do you think of this kid? Guanlongjiang replied, not bad. He's young but quite steady, and he's not arrogant. His physical strength is good too. Did you see? He just removed 6 blocks from his pockets. For his age, having this kind of physical ability shows a rock-solid foundation. His aura's pretty impressive. Probably at the peak of the fourth order. Siru shook his head. No, he and Appo's. At the fifth order now. Fifth order? 9 years old in fifth order? Guanlongjiang exclaimed in surprise, stretching out his right hand with all 5 fingers spread as if he wasn't sure he was counting things right. Siru smirked. Otherwise, why do you think Zhang Haoshuan was so eager to take a disciple? This little Tang San is at the fifth order, but if you ask me, that's not all there is to him. There are definitely other secrets about him we don't and Appo's. Know yet. Seriously, you know what Zhang Haoshuan is like, right? He wooed and Appo's. Bother if there wasn't something in it for him. Guanlongjiang blinked a few times. You mean that sly guy pulled a fast one on us? Of course. I just couldn't and Appo's. Be bothered to call him out on it. After all, the kid in Appo's demonic god transformation is just the wind wolf transformation. Even if his wind wolf transformation is unique, the base bloodline is still kinda mediocre. Let and Appo's hope he can go far. Guanlongjiang, deep in thought, said if the fundamental bloodline is weaker, even if he reaches a higher order in the future, he might still be weaker than his peers. Siru shook his head. This is just a preliminary assessment. We need to see what level of ability he can demonstrate. In this afternoon in Appo's combat class, let Enqing thoroughly test him. Okay. We and Appo's, LC then. Guanlongjiang nodded in agreement. Returning to his room, Tang San freshened up and changed into clean clothes, feeling immediately more relaxed. The mysterious heaven technique nourished the body and had significant health benefits. Having cultivated it for 3 lifetimes, Tang San was intimately familiar with it. In a short while, most of his fatigue faded, and his vitality surged. The only side effect was hunger. The dining hall was ready with lunch boiled meat. It was exactly that. Meat cooked in hot water with some salt added. It was simple and plain, but it did the job. For students who expended great physical energy, the nutrition in meat was what they needed most. Large pots of steaming boiled meat were placed on the tables. As Guanlongjiang announced the meal and Appo's start, everyone began to eat earnestly and without reservation. Eating was a matter of speed, no doubt about it. The quick got their fill and the slow missed out. Tang San did the same, quickly joining in the scramble for meat. He ate heartily, complemented by sips of the meat broth. Soon he felt warm all over. By the time he started to feel full, the meat was gone, and even the bones looked as if a convocation of scavenger eagles had a go at them. Tang San hadn't and Appo's eaten his fill, but seeing the empty pots he felt helpless. With nothing left to eat, the students dispersed. Tang San, however, called out to Cheng Zicheng. What an Appo's up? Didn't an Appo's get enough to eat? You could consider going to town to buy some food for yourself. The teachers Don and Appo's manage these things. You must find ways to nourish yourself, especially when you and Appo's punished and Don and Appo's get meals. It'll be wise to prepare more food, Cheng Zicheng said with a smile. Right, I and Appo's. I'll go buy some later. Tang San agreed with the suggestion. At his current stage of strength training, how could he not need more food? The better the nutrition, the better it was for his body and Appo's tempering, especially since he was now ready to let his body grow. Sister, I wanted to ask, when does the academy usually allow us to go into town? Tang San asked. Cheng Zicheng replied, after classes each day. It and Appo's generally all right, but the requirement is that you must go at least in pairs. You can and Appo's go into town alone to avoid danger. And you must be low-key. If you cause any kind of trouble, you and Appo's will be severely punished. Understood. Tang San nodded. Cheng Zicheng said, Don and Appo's overthink it though. Usually after a day in Appo's training, we're all so wrecked that nobody has the energy to go out, much less cause trouble. Changing the subject with a smile, Tang San said, You know, it was really awesome to see you fly earlier. What kind of demonic god transformation was that? Can you tell me? Cheng Zicheng giggled. My demonic god transformation is the golden rock transformation. It and Appo's the bloodline inheritance of the golden-winged great rock. Tang San and Appo's eyes lit up. Wow, that sounds pretty powerful. Cheng Zicheng shrugged helplessly. It is, but my bloodline ISN and Appo's T pure enough so my cultivation ISN and Appos. T very fast. The teacher said that if I break through to the 7th order, they and Appos. LL try to let me undergo ancestral regression to enhance my bloodline strength. Only then will I have a greater chance of continuous improvement. What is ancestral regression? Tang San asked surprised. Cheng Ziqing explained I don and Appos. T know the specifics. I and Appos. V only heard from the teacher that it and Appos. S a ritual requiring many precious materials. It ISN and Appos T easy. Ancestral regression wasn and Appos. T invented by us but by demon and nymph races to purify bloodlines. It and Appos. S also useful for us. Tang San nodded silently, then asked sister in this afternoon and Appos. S practical combat class are we going to spar? Cheng Ziqing looked at him with an eyebrow raised. Why? Do you want to spar with me? Do you think I and Appos am young and weak? Let me tell you I and Appos am pretty strong. Be careful or I might beat you. Tang San smiled. I just want to experience your golden rock transformation. It sounds really impressive. Cheng Ziqing giggled then I won an Appos. T go easy on you. Alright I and Appos am going to rest. I and Appos am dead tired. I and Appos. I'll take a nap first. Watching her leave Tang San thought seriously it and Appos. S not because you and Appos. Weak that I want to spar with you. It and Appos. S because I and Appos am interested in your bloodline power. Even absorbing a bit would be good. The ability to fly is just too important. Indeed, after hearing about Cheng Ziqing and Appos' demonic god transformation, Tang San had already decided that his 5th demonic god transformation imprint would be the golden rock transformation. In the 2 days since arriving at Redemption Academy, Tang San and Appos' first impression was that he had come to a place filled with treasures. Natural resources aside, his fellow disciples, both male and female, were walking treasure troves. Each of them possessed extraordinary and rare demonic god transformation bloodlines. This meant that he could learn these powerful abilities from them. Whether he could enhance them further was a problem for the future. Right now the priority was to get a hold of them. Moreover, as his seniors and Appos' cultivation improved, their bloodline powers would also be strengthened. By constantly absorbing a little bit of their bloodline power, the bloodline imprints he acquired would naturally enhance too. This was much easier and safer than hunting demons. Abilities like Dubai and Appos' Celestial Fox Vision and Cheng Ziqing and Appos' Golden Rock Transformation were both extremely rare and beneficial to him. He still needed to observe what abilities the other senior disciples possessed. They could all be potential targets for the future. As long as he absorbed just a bit of their bloodline power, they would recover quickly, and if he was careful, they might not even notice. Tang San possessed 4 imprints: the Wind Wolf transformation, the Flash Leopard transformation, the Rhino transformation, and the Discerning Eye, a fusion of the White-Headed Falcon bloodline and the Etherhorn Deer bloodline. Unfortunately, most of these abilities were not particularly powerful, since they were in and Appos' from the mightiest races of demons, so he had to find better ones to replace them. In this world, for Tang San to become stronger, apart from pushing his mysterious heaven technique further, he needed the abilities provided by these bloodline imprints. This was a limitation imposed by this world. Only by breaking through to the god level in the future would he have the possibility of contending with the laws of this plane and thus reclaiming some of his abilities from his previous life. The morning and Appos' physical training class was exhausting, so Tang San rested a little first. Then he started meditating, entering the state remarkably quickly. The energy in his body surged, merging with the energy of the mysterious heavens technique, and he could clearly feel some improvements in himself. It wasn't Appos' until the bell inside the academy rang that he awoke from his meditation. Outside he could hear noise clearly. His colleagues were already heading for the afternoon classes. After stretching his body, Tang San sprang up and left the room. His fellow students were all gathered there in the courtyard, presumably having rested for a while themselves. Guanlongjiang and Muanqing were present, while Mu Yunyu and Siru were absent. Muanqing said, "Today's practical combat class will be held within the academy." Tang San stepped forward. Tang San took a step forward, emerging from the group. Muanqing continued, "As you are new to the academy, Both the teachers and your colleagues must become familiar with your abilities. You may choose one person as your opponent for a real combat match. You can go all out in the match. Teacher Guan and I will ensure your safety. Yes, teacher. Tang San nodded, turning toward the other students. The students of Redemption Academy were somewhat curious about this newcomer, especially as he was the youngest among them. They were particularly intrigued by his successful completion of the morning and Appo's physical training, even more so after learning that Mu Yunyu had increased his weight load during the session. Naturally, Redemption Academy placed great emphasis on potential when selecting its students, but Mu Yunyu and Appo's physical training class was not easy to handle. Everyone struggled with it when they first arrived. Thus, Tang San and Appo's physical capabilities coupled with his young age had already drawn extra attention from everyone. Tang San and Appo's gaze swept over his senior fellow students. One of them waved his hands repeatedly at him, indicating he did not wish to engage in actual combat with Tang San. Dubai had just gotten back, and his face was still somewhat pale. The physical training class had indeed been torturous for him. Tang San had already decided on his target. I choose senior sister Chang Zicheng. Okay, Chang Zicheng and Appo's demon god transformation is of the flying type. Mu Wenqing reminded him, so be mentally prepared. Chang Zicheng, pouting her red lips, stepped forward. He knows. I ran into him in today in Appo's physical training class. Hey, are you sure you want to challenge me? I told you I won in Appo's. Go easy on you. The latter statement was naturally addressed to Tang San, who smiled and said, Please enlighten me, senior sister. The others stepped back, leaving the center of the courtyard to them. Mu Wenqing and Guan Longjiang positioned themselves closer to the center, ready to intervene quickly if any danger arose during the fight. The two stood 20 meters apart, facing each other. Chang Zicheng and Appo's eyes sparkled with confidence, and she seemed eager to begin. Tang San, however, appeared very calm, merely gazing at her serenely. With Mu Wenqing and Appo's command, Tang San and Appo's first real battle since arriving at the Redemption Academy commenced. Chang Zicheng and Appo's body shimmered in an orange-yellow glow, her arms spreading at her sides and swiftly transforming into wings, her lengthy hair turning orange, interspersed with feather-like strands. Most demonic gods' transformations Tang San had witnessed resulted in an ugly, beastly appearance. However, Chang Zicheng and Appo's transformation made her even more radiant and beautiful. Even her demeanor seemed more fairy-like. While she activated her demonic god transformation, Tang San also took action. Facing Chang Zicheng, who possessed the golden rock transformation, his biggest challenge would naturally be her ability to fly. A green light flashed around Tang San as he activated the Wind Wolf imprint. The wind element began to gather around him visibly, lightening his body instantly. He accelerated suddenly, covering 20 meters before anyone even had time to be surprised. Chang Zicheng didn't end Appo's fly immediately after activating the golden rock transformation. Instead, her arms, transformed into wings, suddenly closed inward, sweeping toward Tang San like two scythes, their sharp edges seemingly tearing the air apart. Tang San lunged forward, as if he was throwing himself under the scythes. At that moment, his hands swung forward at the same time, releasing two green-colored wind blades that shot like lightning, striking the golden rock and Appo's wings in the nick of time. With two crisp clangs, Chang Zicheng noticeably faltered. The wings slicing through the air were abruptly stopped and she was jolted back a step by the impact of the wind blades. Simultaneously, Tang San and Appo's fingers quivered, and a series of wind blades shot out rapidly from his palms, as if he was spraying them. 18 wind blades burst forth like flowers scattering from the hands of a celestial maiden, illuminating the battlefield in a green hue. The intense concentration of wind element even caused a distinct howling sound throughout the courtyard. The 18 wind blades were actually not aimed at Chang Zicheng. Rather, they shot upward, intertwining in the air to form a large net. This instantly discouraged Chang Zicheng, who was in fact preparing to take flight after being pushed back earlier. When the 18 wind blades flew out, tracing arcs in the air, Guan Longjiang and Appo's and Mu Wenqing and Appo's eyes lit up instantly. They exchanged glances, unable to hide their surprise in their expressions. Although they had heard from Zhang Tianxiao about Tang San and Apos' exquisite control over wind blades, seeing was believing. Witnessing him instantly release so many wind blades, each solid and entirely under his control, was simply amazing. How could a 9-year-old child achieve this? This level of control seemed on par with or even beyond that of an 8th or 9th order member of the Wind Wolf clan. It was clear that there was some kind of unique technique behind this astonishing control. In contrast to their amazement, Chang Ziqing was feeling a mix of shock and anger. She had certain expectations and judgments about Tang San, and she knew he was skilled in using wind blades. However, she had never anticipated being suppressed after just their first exchange. The 2 wind blades launched by Tang San had been extremely forceful. Upon impact, her tough golden rock wings felt numb from the shock. And just as she was about to take off, she found that the 18 wind blades in the air posed such a threat that she couldn't and Apos' risk flying. The feeling of losing control over the battle before it even began was unbearably frustrating. But Chang Ziqing was still a member of the Redemption Academy, and therefore not someone to be easily defeated. Realizing that taking flight might make her a target for the wind blades, she reacted almost instantly. Instead of retreating, she advanced, her wings flapping fiercely to create a gust of wind. This wind served as her shield against the aerial wind blades, and simultaneously, she accelerated hard. Almost like teleporting, she lunged directly toward Tang San. In a flash of orange-yellow light, she was already face to face with Tang San. At this moment, Tang San had just unleashed 18 wind blades, and he obviously couldn't and Apos' release another. Chang Ziqing finally showed a hint of a smile at the corner of her mouth. "You want to block my flight, huh? Then I and Apos' LL go straight for the jugular and beat you in close combat." But her smile stiffened on her lips in the next instant. Tang San had disappeared. Just as Chang Ziqing thought she was about to collide with him, suddenly everything blurred before her eyes, and Tang San vanished into thin air. Then came the sensation of numerous sharp edges coming from all directions. Not only that, but her wings closed, she was immobilized. To the others, it looked like Tang San shifted a bit before the collision and somehow appeared behind Chang Ziqing. Then he grabbed her shoulders, holding her in place. The 18 wind blades he had set in the air were now homed in on Chang Ziqing like swallows returning to their nest. The changes happened so swiftly that everyone and Apos' gasps of surprise were still in their throats when Chang Ziqing was already facing a sea of dark green. Chang Ziqing tried to break free from Tang San and Apos' grasp, only to find her body suddenly weakened, unable to escape. Then, in an instant, the wind blades arrived. The vast green light filling her vision sparked sudden panic in her heart. How can this be? Was the only thought she could muster. But in the next moment, those streaks of green light suddenly halted before her, pausing a meter away. At this time, Guanlongjiang and Muanqing had already arrived on either side of them. But before they could act, the wind blades had already stopped and dissipated into gentle breezes. Tang San released his grip on Chang Ziqing and Apos' shoulders and stepped back a little. Chang Ziqing swayed slightly as she abruptly turned around. What she saw was Tang San and Apos' faint smile. "Senior sister, thank you for the match." Chang Ziqing and Apos' eyes reddened instantly. She had lost just like that, without even being able to put up a proper fight. She had been defeated by Tang San, who had just joined the academy and was much younger than her. The shame and grievance in her heart almost exploded instantly. She wanted to say something but didn't, and Apos' know what to say. She had simply lost. Muanqing patted Chang Ziqing on the shoulder. "Victory and defeat are common in battle. When you lose, you must find the reason. This is also the purpose of our practical combat lessons." Guanlongjiang turned to Tang San. "You and Apos' reached the 5th order?" Tang San had no intention of concealing his cultivation level. In the Redemption Society or the Academy, the stronger one's ability, the higher the access to privileges and resources. Moreover, his newly acknowledged teacher also knew he was at the 5th order, so secrecy was unnecessary. "I just broke through," Tang San confirmed. At 9 years old, being at the 4th order would have been astonishing enough, and now he and Apos' at the 5th order? For a moment, the students present looked at Tang San with some amazement. There were 16 students apart from Tang San, but the one with the highest cultivation was at the 6th order and had barely passed its threshold. Most were at the 4th order, similar to Chang Zicheng, with only 3 people at the 5th. How could they not be shocked that this child, only 9 years old, had already attained the 5th order of cultivation? Chang Zicheng was also stunned. The 5th order? Yes. The strength of his wind blade attack didn't end Oppo's. Seem like something a 4th order can do. So he's reached the 5th order already? Guan Longjiang laughed. No wonder the mayor took you as a disciple. Indeed impressive. Take a rest and later we and Oppo's. LL have another real combat session. Tang San was in a good mood. When he had grabbed Chang Zicheng and Oppo's shoulder, he had subtly absorbed some of her bloodline power. A new demonic god transformation bloodline imprint had appeared within him. Since he had only absorbed a small amount of bloodline power, the imprint it formed was only at the 3rd order. But this was enough. He could now retain his 5th imprint. Of course he couldn't and Oppo's yet try what effect the golden rock transformation would have on him, but it should allow him to fly. This was different from the vision of the white falcon demon. The golden winged rock and Oppo's greatest strength was flight, and it soared up to 90,000 miles daily. Among flying demons it was definitely one of the greatest. Okay, Tang San didn't and Oppo's need to rest, but he refrained from saying anything. There was no need to look arrogant. He agreed, apologetically nodded to Chang Zicheng, and returned to Dubai and Oppo's side. Chang Zicheng, puffing with anger, followed him and stood beside him, whispering, "Are you really at the 5th order? How can you cultivate so fast?" Tang San spread his arms in helplessness. "I don't know what to tell you. I just cultivate normally." Dubai, however, grabbed him and shook him. "The 5th order, you and Oppo's. V already reached the 5th order. I and Oppo's. Am jealous, I and Oppo's. Am envious, when will I ever reach the 5th order?" As the absolute bottom dweller in cultivation in the academy, Dubai thought that with Tang San and Oppo's arrival, he might not be at the bottom anymore. But now he realized the gap between him and Tang San was enormous, and it wasn't in the direction he had expected it to be. While Dubai held his arm, Tang San silently activated his mysterious heaven technique, drawing a trace of bloodline power from Dubai. Given Dubai and Oppo's weaker cultivation and the fact that he was both slightly injured and very tired, he drew only an imperceptible amount of bloodline power, unnoticed by Dubai. In Tang San and Oppo's body, this power formed a bloodline imprint that seemed to be somewhere around the 1st order. The golden rock transformation was meant to become a true ability of his own. At the same time, he hoped that the celestial fox vision could merge with his discerning eye, fostering the latter and Oppo's evolution. As his cultivation progressed, the benefits of the discerning eye became more apparent. Firstly, it significantly enhanced Tang San and Oppo's vision, which meant that it synergized excellently with the purple demon eyes. Secondly, the fact that he could directly observe elemental energy meant that he could use his spiritual power more efficiently, bringing marked changes in his control over elements. That and Oppo's why he could better utilize the hidden weapon 100 separation techniques. Moreover, the discerning eye could, to some extent, observe an opponent and Oppo's weaknesses. This made it extremely useful in combat. The effect of celestial fox vision was wholly different, however. As far as Tang San knew, it was among the most overpowered abilities within the demon race, but it was not used for combat. From the information he had gotten, Dubai was likely the only human with celestial fox vision, and his ability was one of the greatest secrets of the Redemption Society. If the Celestial Fox clan discovered his existence, they would immediately take him away. Tang San didn't know much about what exactly this ability did, but given how high it was regarded, he knew that it was well worth exploring. Muanqing said, "Next up, Gu Li Zhangzibin, come forward." 2 boys, around the ages of 13 or 14, stepped out. Each bowed to the teachers and took their positions. The next match was about to begin, and Dubai released his grip on Tang San, though the envy in his eyes was still apparent. Tang San quietly asked him what an Oppo's the usual process for a practical combat class? Dubai replied, "Normally, everyone must do at least 1 sparring session. The opponent in each class differs. After all the combat sessions, the teachers will give us feedback. They'll point out our strengths and weaknesses in the battle. and guide us so we can improve and enhance our skills. Stop with your we. And Oppos, you and Oppos. Re not doing anything, Chang Zicheng said irritably. Dubai and Oppos' mouth twitched. Don and Oppos. T kick a man when he and Oppos' down, okay? You and Oppos. LL lose friends that way. Chang Zicheng snorted. As if I care. I Don and Oppos. T make friends with third-order weaklings. Tang San looked from Dubai to Chang Zicheng and Kuden and Oppos. T helped but chuckle. Clearly, Chang Zicheng was venting her frustration from the recent defeat. What are you looking at? Once I reach the fifth order, I and Oppos. LL definitely be able to beat you. Chang Zicheng glared at Tang San, clearly still disgruntled about the recent battle. Keep it up, senior sister. I'm rooting for you, Tang San responded. Two young men in the arena had already taken their stances. With Muanqing's command, the second round of real combat began. The young Guli was visibly thinner and not much taller than Tang San. At this moment his body began to transform. His ordinary-looking skin turned into a thick, keratinous scale armor. His head began to deform, and a long tail sprouted from his tailbone. The transformation was indeed massive. Generally, the demonic god transformation caused changes in a human's body, but these changes were limited. The greater the change, the closer the bloodline was to that of a demon. After the transformation, Guli's body had changed so drastically that it was hard to even recognize him as human as he transformed. His body shimmered with a flowing iridescent light. Although it appeared grotesque, it also exuded a unique, extraordinary charm. What demonic god transformation is this? Tang San wondered, unable to recognize it. Among the demons described to him by Wang Yanfeng, none matched this creature. It resembled a crocodile, but since when did crocodiles shimmer with such radiance? Meanwhile, Guli and Oppos' opponent Zhang Zibin transformed too. His body stretched taller, and a powerful aura burst forth. Diamond-shaped scales emerged on his skin, and sharp horns grew on his head. In a short time his elongated frame became robust, transforming the youngster into a muscular man over 2 meters tall, with horns and a body covered in scales, exuding a mighty aura. Guli was around the fourth order, while Zhang Zibin and Oppos' aura suggested a fifth-order cultivation. Actual combat between the fourth and fifth order? What are the teachers thinking? As Tang San pondered, the battle between the two had already begun. Zhang Zibin roared and leaped forward. Mid-air, his figure seemed to expand even more. His pitch-black scales suddenly turned a crimson red. Opening his mouth wide, he spewed a stream of red flames toward his opponent. Guli and Oppos' own scales glowed even brighter in an instant. He propelled himself off the ground and charged directly into the flames. In the next moment, Guli and Oppos' light flickered abruptly, and the flames Zhang Zibin had spewed out strangely froze in midair. Zhang Zibin, continuing his charge, collided with the suspended flames. What ability is this? Tang San was profoundly shaken. This seems like a power to freeze space or maybe time. Having once been a god king, he had a deep understanding of how powerful control over time and space could be. Abilities affecting time and space were the most profound and mysterious abilities in any given world. On the battlefield, Zhang Zibin visibly shuddered, having rushed into his own flames. However, the scales on his body seemed to provide considerable resistance against fire. At that moment, Guli completed a pirouette, his long tail whipping ferociously towards him. Zhang Zibin stepped forward, twisting his body to dodge. Instead of counterattacking, he crossed his arms before him, crouching down and curling up, assuming a defensive posture. In the next instant, he visibly froze, and then he was struck directly by Guli and Oppos' tail. With a loud bang, the strike flung Zhang Zibin 5 or 6 meters away. He rolled on the ground and sprang up the next instant, however, lunging at Guli again. As he struck, his right fist was already enveloped in a dense, fiery glow. Guli retreated, the halo of light around him dimming noticeably. He occasionally stopped or impeded Zhang Zibin and Oppos' movements with strikes of his tail, continuously clashing with him. Both fighters had extremely strong defenses, especially Guli. He showed no significant injuries even when hit by Zhang Zibin and Oppos' fiery punches. However, as the battle continued, Tang San noticed Guli falling behind. His remarkable control abilities seemed to wane, likely due to excessive consumption of his bloodline power. Guli and Apos' defense remained strong and he fought tenaciously. Even when he could no longer effectively control Zhang Zibin, he managed occasional counterattacks, smashing Zhang Zibin with his tail like a heavy hammer. Zhang Zibin was no less adept at defense, and his strength was formidable. His demonic god transformation, imbued with the power of fire, was also very strong, whether in strength, speed, or power. The two fought back and forth. As time passed, Guli and Apos' exhaustion grew. The iridescent light on his body gradually faded, and even his demonic god transformation began to falter. "Stop!" Muanqing called an end to the match. Although Guli and Apos' abilities were exceptional, Zhang Zibin and Apos' cultivation was ultimately higher, and he won through attrition. At this moment, Tang San was filled with astonishment. The golden rock transformation he had just absorbed seemed less appealing now. Guli and Apos' ability to control time was incredibly compelling. After watching it for a while, he concluded that it wasn't an Apos' spatial confinement but rather a more peculiar manipulation of time, capable of instantly freezing it. This control was even more effective than direct spatial restriction. With such control, Zhang Zibin was helpless despite being at a higher order in cultivation. He had to acquire this time control ability no matter what. Guli lacked combat experience and techniques, so he couldn't make the most out of his own bloodline ability. But the same power would be far more impactful in Tang San and Apos' hands. Now he was contemplating which bloodline imprint to replace with this time control ability, or whether to forego absorbing the golden rock transformation altogether and directly absorbing the time control power. However, the ability to fly was also crucial. It was indeed a dilemma. He dared not casually merge different types of demonic god transformation imprints. If they counteracted each other, it could lead to trouble, potentially weakening rather than enhancing his powers. Senior brother Du Bai, what were the demonic god transformations of these two brothers just now? They looked really magical, Tang San asked softly. Du Bai explained. Zhang Zibin and Apos' transformation is the Crimson Dragon transformation. It and Apos' an offshoot of the Dragon Clan. The Crimson Dragon Clan has few members, but they are quite powerful, even compared to other branches of the Dragon Clan. He is really strong and very well-rounded. He's got strength, speed, fire, and he's very tough. The teachers always say that he's a great fighter in every respect. Guli and Apos' bloodline is the Chrono Crocodile, and that one is really impressive. Actually, it's so impressive that it's often just called the Chrono Transformation. See, it's common sense that demonic god transformation names include the original demon species. This one doesn't in Apos' because the time control ability is just too overpowered. They say that if you cultivate it all the way to the divine level, it can reverse time on a large scale, and even bring the dead back to life. Of course, if it was that easy, any idiot would do it. It's like my own ability, really difficult to cultivate. Chrono Crocodile, Crimson Dragon. Treasure boys, wait for me. Tang San swallowed dry, feeling his understanding of demonic god transformations evolving. Ever since arriving at the Redemption Society, he had broadened his horizons and witnessed the capabilities of incredibly powerful demons. Compared to these, his previous abilities seemed less significant. How to adjust and reconfigure them would require considerable thought for some time. A good combination would undoubtedly enhance his strength further. The practical class continued. The fight just now was one of the longer ones, lasting about 5 minutes due to the stalemate between the two combatants. By contrast, the battle between Tang San and Cheng Zicheng had ended in just a few seconds. Tang San watched each subsequent battle with great attention. He realized his fellow students and Apos' abilities were unique. None of their demonic god transformations were ordinary. Although their combat experience and application might not be commendable from Tang San and Apos' perspective, their talents were incomparable to any human vassals he had encountered. Even among the demons he had seen previously, few possessed such bloodlines. Tang San, are you rested? After the 7th practical combat session, Muanqing called out to Tang San again. I am rested, Tang San replied respectfully. Muanqing nodded and said, you will participate in the final battle to conclude the session. Your opponent will be Wu Bingji. He is the only student among all the disciples who has reached the 6th order. You can do your best. Let us see where your limits lie. 6th order? Tang San was somewhat surprised. He naturally knew who Wu Bingji was, though he was still unfamiliar with everyone. Among all the sparring sessions, only 2 students had not yet fought, Zhu Bai and a youth who appeared to be 16 or 17.